All right, I think we're all here right now.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds to get this stream.
Yeah, no problem. We're all here right now.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds to get this stream.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and mailing to the officially designated newspapers. Ready? We getting feedback? Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that notice of this meeting. Hold on 1 second. By posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and mailing to the officially designated newspapers. Ready? We get feedback? Yeah, give me 2. Yeah, it's the live stream is messing up. Okay, let's start again. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall, mailing to the officially designated newspaper a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would be taking place on Monday, May 16th, 2022 via Zoom webinar. Amy Lawrence?
Here.
Jody Sharma?
Here.
Steve Toger?
Here.
Shanju Harjani?
Here.
Ashley Avigdor?
Here.
Jessica Glatt?
Here.
Craig Claytoner?
Here. Thank you, Eileen. Good evening, everyone. We are going to start with approval of 2 sets of minutes that we have. The first being of 4/18/22. Do we have any corrections or changes to that set of minutes? If not, can I have a motion to adopt?
Move approval of meeting minutes of 4/18/22.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you very much. Next, we have the approval of 5/2/22, the minutes from that meeting. Any corrections or changes to that set of minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval of meeting minutes 5/2/22.
Thank you, Steve. In a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Next up, we will have Immoralizations. We have 3 to do tonight. First of which being calendar 38/34/21, Jacqueline Stein at 37 Keene Road in Short Hills. I believe this was a denial, correct?
That's right.
Who is eligible, Eileen?
Eligible are Jody, Steve, Chandru, Jessica, Craig.
Anyone have any changes, corrections to that memorialization? If not, can I have a motion from one of the names listed?
Move approval calendar 3834-21.
And a second?
Second,
Thank you, Jody.
Jody Sharma,
yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Shanju Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Claytoner.
Yes. Next, we have calendar 38/58/22, Wendy and Bruce Prashker, 26 Park Road, Short Hills, also denial. Who's eligible?
Okay, hold on 1 sec. Because the resolution, the motion was to approve, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So only those that voted no. So that would be Amy and Craig.
That are here tonight. That's right.
That
That
are here
was,
tonight. Who
Yeah.
else?
Joe.
The only other
voted on it,
worst
right?
person that voted to deny was Craig. I'm sorry, Craig, Wolfgang, and Amy. The
Wolfgang,
motion was
okay.
to approve it, and they voted against the approval.
Right. So,
believe it was-
Amy, unless you have any changes or corrections to that memorialization, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I make the motion to approve.
Great, and I'll second that.
Okay, Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Craig Kleitner.
Yes. Next up, we have calendar 386022, Zingbo Zoo and Yina Lu at 20 Great Hills Terrace in Short Hills. This is a revision.
This
Yeah,
was a
this is-
revision, to,
Yeah,
yeah. You
Go
want to
ahead,
take it?
Eileen, sorry.
Yeah, they contacted me after we approved it. It had said that they were going to install 12 trees and an additional 14 trees. And I think when I checked the minutes also, it was, they said they would install 4 to 5 trees in the elevated area and 4 to 5 trees in the outside of the elevated area. So we were going to just revise the.
So it ended up being 5 12-foot trees and 5
5
14-foot
14
trees.
trees, yeah.
Thank you. Who's eligible on that?
Jody, Steve, Sean Drew, Ashley, Jessica, Craig.
Would someone like to make a motion on that?
I'll move approval of calendar 3860-22.
Second.
Thank you.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Sean Drew Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Abigdor,
Yes. Jessica
Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Kleitner.
Yes. So tonight, first thing on the applications, 150 JFK Parkway, which the applicant is T-Mobile Northeast at 150K JFK Parkway in Short Hills. That case that application will be carried to June 6th. So if you're here tonight on that one, it will be moved to June 6th with no further notice. It is on the website right now as being carried. So if you were here for that case, it will not be heard this evening, and it will be heard on the 6th. Next, we're going to start with calendar 385321, which is Associates 29 LLC, 291 Millburn Avenue in Millburn. So I'd like to bring over those applicants.
Let me just see. Steve, okay. And I'm bringing over Mr. McDonough and
Yeah, I'm Mr. Cohen, Mr. Buckholz. I hope not.
I don't, yeah, okay, hold on. Alexander Dougherty,
Yes,
okay, and John McDonough. And you said who else?
John Buckholz. And Kelsey Santiago, if she's on.
Kelsey. I see a John. I will bring John over.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Kelsey Santiago.
And then Andrew Spiro.
John is John Buckholz.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Can we
Eileen.
turn the cameras on?
John, put your camera on.
I'm looking for something in this screen that says camera on.
Bottom left should be video.
Just says it just says mute. Join us.
How about now? There you go.
Got it.
Perfect. Is there, Mr. Abbott, is there a Andrew Cohen? Or that could be,
Yeah, he's there.
Got it. And you said Andrew Spiro as well?
Yes, thank you.
yes.
I think that's good. For some reason, Mr. Cohen is not. It's not bringing him over. Okay, no. Okay. There's also an Irwin Cohen. Do you know if they're, because I'm having trouble getting the Andy Cohen.
Yeah, let me.
It's not coming over. There we go.
Oh, you got him. There he is.
Okay.
Perfect. That's everyone that I know
Okay.
with my application. Great.
Let's get everyone's cameras on, please.
I think Mr. McDonough and Mr. Dougherty are planners yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, so it's just Steve, you have two planners?
Well, Mr. McDonough may be called away. He's at another matter. And so we have Mr. Dougherty to fill in if at the time it's ready for our planner's testimony, Mr. McDonough is not available.
Got it.
Okay, Mr. Azzolini, then how would you like to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, like to say good evening to everyone. Stephen Azzolini, representing the applicant Associates 29 LLC. I'd just like to proceed with the brief opening, and then I will move on to our witnesses tonight. Tonight, we'll have Mr. Buchholz, our architect, Mr. Cohen, the applicant, and either Mr. McDonough or Mr. Dougherty as our planner. So this application tonight is for the property at 291 Millburn Avenue, Block 703, Lot 8. It's a three-story multifamily residential apartment building. There are approximately 17 units in the building. My clients are seeking in the application tonight to add an amenity of a roof deck on a portion of the roof, and this is for the benefit of the residents of the building. We're before you, the zoning board, tonight because in the business B4 zone where this property is located, residences are not permitted on the first level. This is a 3-level building. This was a pre-existing non-conforming use. This building is decades old, so it's been there quite a while. With that being said, with our submission of the roof deck, it was determined by the township that it's technically not in a permitted accessory use, and it's an expanding of a non-conforming use. So then we are before the zoning board for a D variance tonight. So you have the plan that was submitted. The only other exhibit tonight will be from our planner, and I assume I will start with that exhibit as A1 when they testify, because you already have the other exhibit from Mr. McDonough. But if any other exhibits are introduced tonight, we will start A1 and proceed after that. If there are no further questions, then I'd start with Mr. Buchholz.
Yes, please, we like qualifications.
Absolutely.
Let me just get him sworn in first.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Buchholz, do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
I do, yes.
Your name for the record, please. Spelling it.
John Buchholz, B as in boy, U, C, 2 H's, O, L, Z as in zebra.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Buchholz. Can you give the board the benefit of your educational and professional background?
Sure. Bachelor of Architecture from Pratt Institute in 1979. Became a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey in 1982. I'm licensed in four states. I'm a lead AP, a certified interior designer, NCARB, I've appeared before this board on numerous occasions. I've appeared before the Millburn Planning Board on numerous occasions, and well over 100 Planning Board and Board of Adjustments throughout the state of New Jersey for over the last 40 years.
And your
And
license, is your
all my
license-
licenses are up to date, yes.
Great, thank you. I'd like to offer Mr. Buckholz as a professional architect in this matter.
Yes, qualifications are accepted.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chairman.
Buckholz, why don't you start out and take us through the existing conditions and what we're proposing at this location?
Okay, the drawings that are submitted are AO and an A1, and the drawings, Eileen, can Andrew add drawings to, can he?
Yeah.
The drawings that I have before the board and that you'll see tonight are the same drawings that were submitted. It's an AO dated November 3rd, 2021, and an A1 with the same date. The first drawing is more of the general data sheet, which has the list of properties on it to the left, a survey towards the middle, a zoning chart, and some information about the applicant and the project address. The middle space that is the site plan shows Millburn Avenue to the bottom side of this, which is south. Home Street is to the east, and up top to the north is Essex Street beyond the restaurant that's behind this site. This site is sited to the east with a sidewalk. On the front is a sidewalk, a little bit of grassed area on Millburn Avenue. There's a driveway to the west to another 3-story apartment building, and to the rear is parking specifically for this building. So there is very little grassed area on this site. Therefore, really no place for anyone to find outdoor space or recreation or relief from being inside. If we can, I'd like to go to A1. A1 is where we show the actual roof plan, which illustrates on this plan, the bottom side is Millburn Avenue, to the right is homes, being the easterly, and the area to the back, where is the northeast corner, is the area that we're looking to create a small roof deck. This roof deck is about 1,300 square feet. It's a very small area of the existing roof. It stays away from the front area. There is some cell phone equipment that sits in the middle of this roof, across from the single staircase that comes up to this roof. The area is fenced off from the rest of the roof. There will be gates keeping people from the other parts of this roof. And the 2 areas that are to the north and to the east, where there are currently existing parapet walls, we have to put in low guards. They're basically a guardrail that stops someone from going off of the side and off the side of the building. So basically what the intent here is to give some relief to people have been coming up on the roof through COVID. We're trying to make this area specifically so that people can't have access throughout the roof, have an accident going off the side of the roof. It is meant to be towards the back of the building, so it stops people from looking over the front. And it is geared towards the back, in which we have, you'll see illustrations of how this faces the train station, how this faces the bank and the commercial properties to the back and to the right. This is fronting on Millburn Avenue. This is surrounded by commercial properties. Any kind of single family residence is significantly away from this property. And it is a limited area. And what we are proposing here is, on the plan, we are showing an area which we're using string lights that you might find in someone's residential backyard. So what we're looking to do is utilizing These are old dumbwaiters where we're going to put a galvanized post up about 10 feet. And we're going to provide these sort of lines of hanging lights that will illuminate at night these areas. So these lights are very low in voltage. They don't really go off the side of the building. They stay over the roof. They are not huge, brightly lit lights. They are going to be in the areas that people might come out. We will have an emergency exit light on the outside for exiting. All the way to the bottom left, there is a fire escape ladder, which creates a second means of egress that currently exists today, so that if for any reason the existing fire stair is inaccessible or there's smoke in that stair, we have a second means of egress off this small roof that's here. So as you can see, it is a small area. And this is a 3-story building that currently exists. It's masonry walls, and it has wood on the inside as framing for the interior walls as well as the floors. It is currently a residential use of 17 units, has access to this roof. And this roof area is only to be used by the tenants of this building. There is no intent to have people come off the street or someone from the town can use this. This is only meant to be for the residents. This roof area is currently a roof which has hot tar on it. It is black. Our intent is to take self-leveling roof panels that you would use on a roof, sometimes on people's houses on balconies, that level, which will give a little bit more of a level surface back here. There was some talk about, just maybe some little AstroTurf areas to look like a lawn, but things that just make it a little bit more comfortable to use. They're low lying. They're usually recyclable elements. They will be placed on this roof area, specifically within this white area. We plan to insulate the space that is between this roof and the apartment below. We're going to blow in and fill that space with insulation. We now have 3 possibilities of insulating, is either blowing the insulation in, and we found a mat that can be put on the roof, like a gym mat, which will take out any noise or any bounce on the roof. So we will insulate and keep that noise down for the residents that are in the building. And the intent is not to have any spread of light off of this roof. The intent is to keep the activities in the back of the building, and the intent is to keep it lowly lit. There is no intent for sound systems or speaker systems, and it will have limited access for limited times, which will be which the owner of the building can talk to. So that is basically what we are showing. Our planner will go over exactly, he has great illustrations on the fact that this is in the middle of the B4 zone. It is really isolated from any existing single-family homes. This is again, this is being taken to this board because technically this is in the B4 zone, which you're not allowed to have apartment units on the first floor. If we had not had apartment units on the first floor, basically this would be a fully conforming use. And then this rooftop unit would be just an accessory use and somewhat a permitted use. There is nothing that denies us from providing this accessory use. So at this time, we just are showing the board that this is not an aggressively large area. It is rather small and limited in area. And just as a final, the building height to the left is calculations that we took, my office brought, we dropped tapes down around the building, took the average grades, and we do not have a height variance. This is taking the grade, the heights to the specific barriers that we're putting in on those 2 walls. They are low. The parapet wall is higher in certain areas and lower in certain areas. because the roof is pitched to shed water. So we've taken that into consideration and we meet those requirements. And that's basically my testimony for this roof.
John, just in your opinion, from Millburn Avenue, will anyone walking on Millburn be able to see the roof deck where it's located?
No, basically this guard that is on the back area of the building is on the inside of the parapet. So you from across the street or down the block, you might be able to see rising above this parapet wall that's a couple of feet tall. It might come up a little bit. It might come up about 1.5 feet higher than these parapet walls and run around the sides, but it just stops anyone from going over the sides. So technically, from a distance, you might be able to see the hanging lights. You might be able to see a little bit of this guard, but for the most part, this is really on the inner boundaries of this building, and certainly from Millburn Avenue, it's completely hidden.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Buchholz. And our planner will have better illustrations. I think the board will have an idea how it's situated in the neighborhood and on the roof itself. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Buchholz at this time.
Okay, you can stop sharing your screen then, Mr. Buchholz.
Okay.
Anyone on the board have any questions for this witness? Go ahead, Chandru.
A couple of questions, and if you've covered it, apologies for that. What is the overall size of the floor? You said it was 1,300, but what is the overall size of the top deck? That's one. Secondly, you made an indication that it's not visible from Millburn Avenue.
Correct.
Is it visible from Essex? Because I don't know if it is sandwiched between the two, or is there another property before you hit Essex?
All right, so it's sort of the back corner of the building. To give you an exact amount, it's a little under a quarter of the building. So this is roughly 1,300 square feet. So I'm going to say there's about a 5,000 square foot roof area. So it is smaller than a quarter of it. This property is sitting directly on Home Street, which I think it's now Wells Fargo is to the east. And then there's a restaurant, the restaurant parking lot, and the restaurant is directly behind us. And then you have Essex Street, and then you have the train station. So basically, if you were to, because there's somewhat of a parking lot directly behind us, you would be able to see a portion of that wall come up about, in some areas, it might be a foot, might be a 1'6" that would just come up a little bit above the parapet wall as a safety guard that you might be able to see from Essex Street. But just remember, you have to see it over that parking lot, and there are some trees in the back. And I believe when you see the illustrations that the planner has, you'll be able to see better for yourself exactly what that visibility might be.
Thank you.
How many residents are in the building?
17.
No, that's how many apartments, how many residents?
So I would leave that to the owner.
Okay. How far away is the building to the west?
To the west, it's probably within 15 feet.
Okay.
To the west is another apartment building.
Correct.
Yes. Same owner.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Buchholz? Go ahead, Rob.
John, just a couple quick questions. You talked about some cellular or wireless facilities on the roof,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Did you do any investigation to determine whether any lease or related approvals pertaining to those facilities permit outdoor activities on the roof by residents?
If I could leave that to the owner who will testify, just so you know that any access to that equipment, I don't have the plan up right now, we'll leave it there. And if we need to bring it up, there is no access to any of that equipment. So in other words, that one corner of the roof that we're utilizing has no cell, anything over there. There is no cabling, no conduits, no panels, no room. So in other words, this area is completely sectioned off from any of the cellular activities or devices that are up there.
Okay, but right, but you don't know whether legally, whether it's by lease or otherwise, other activities are permitted.
I'm sorry, I'd have to defer to the owner for that to give you the, an opinion on
And
it.
and with regard to the area within the B4, are there other even non-residential establishments that have roof activities?
None that I can say are approved by any board or anything. I can probably list Restaurant MC has a roof in the back that we did some years ago that was approved. There are several other buildings that have small rooftop areas, but this one is much higher, and this is on an apartment building. And we originally thought that we had this by right, but we were pushed to this board.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica, you had a question?
Yeah, just one question. You had mentioned that the residents in the building don't have any green spaces that they can, I guess within the building or right outside the building. How far is the building located from Taylor Park?
Ms. Glad, it's it's right directly across from the post office. So arguably these people would have access probably about 1,500 to 2,000 square linear feet down the road to get to the park.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley.
In the picture you displayed, it looked like the galvanized post, which I believe you said was 10 feet tall, was leaning up against a masonry wall of some sort.
Yeah, there's dumbwaiters, so we were attaching them to the dumbwaiters, which have skylights.
How many feet higher is the post than the dumbwaiter?
Probably about 1.5 feet.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Steve.
Two questions. First, how many people are allowed on the deck at any one time? And how do you plan on monitoring and enforcing that? And two, can you provide some testimony about what the view of the deck will be from neighboring buildings?
The view, basically, this is a 3-story building. And Stephen, as you know, we
Three stories?
I'm sorry?
It's only 3 stories?
Yes, it's only 3 stories.
Okay.
It's actually, to be fair, the first floor is slightly raised off of grade,
Right.
but there are still only 3 floors of apartments.
Okay.
So it's a 3-story building, which we have been living in a town for the last 5 decades with a 2-story maximum of any new building. It's only been recently that we been permitted to go 3 stories. So basically, if you look, I'm just trying to think in this area, I don't think there's anything higher than these 2 buildings in this area than this building. You have the train station. You have, I did the bank building on the end. That's only 2 stories. Footnotes is a single story. Chase Bank is a single story. We did a 2-story building that's right next to the post office, which was a new building. You've got shopping centers in the adjoining areas that are all 1-story. So basically, this is the highest building. So to answer your question, I don't think anyone can really see onto this deck.
Right.
Will you be able to see a person standing from the building? Yes, but it would be no different than someone on a deck in their residential deck. But it is somewhat, and this does look over Washington Point. We get a beautiful view of all those trees and the woods back there. So it is a nice view.
My first question?
And I'm sorry,
how many people are allowed on the deck at one time, and how do you plan on enforcing that?
well, it's, we have it's roughly about 1,300 square feet. It's sort of an outside area, so it doesn't conform to any kind of 1 per 100. My guess is that you could probably get, potentially 34 people on this deck at its highest time. You have 17 apartments, so it might be 2 people. I don't see it as being, I just see it as it's going to be used at certain times when it's very, Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings, when people want to read the paper, might be when people come home.
Well, just from a safety perspective, right? What's the weight maximum that the roof can hold? We don't want a roof collapsing because there's 150 people up there, right?
Yeah, no, we've, just so you know, we, part of the thing that we've already reviewed with a structural engineer, I hate to say it, when we used to build these buildings, we build them 10 times better than we build anything today. This roof is extremely overrated in terms of what it can handle.
Okay, so what can it handle?
Oh, it can probably handle 40 or 50 people on. We normally it's only handling 30 pounds per square foot. This roof can handle about 120 pounds per square foot.
Is that documented somewhere?
We can find something. We had a structural engineer run some numbers because we are adding a couple of pounds per square feet with the small, I want to call them self-leveling platforms, and they were clearly, it wasn't even an issue.
And so again, so let's assume it's give it a number, 40 people. How do you plan on making sure it doesn't go over 40 people? How do you stop 100 people from going up on the roof?
I'm not sure where the 100 would come from because I don't think the building has 100 in it. But
well, Steve likes to throw big parties.
Maybe.
I guess we've talked about this. The owner has staff that's there. I think I'd like to have the owner talk to it because he does have someone there that can follow who's there, and he can maybe talk to the people that are in the building. That might help you to understand who's there. The expectations are, we've talked about this, is that someone is not booking parties and bringing 22 family members. He has several apartment buildings in our area, and we work with him on numerous, and this is not his only building. He has dozens of these buildings and is a very good landlord and is always careful about his tenants. But I would like him to address that question to you.
Okay, last question is what regime do you have in place so that the building roof will be inspected on a regular basis to make sure that the added weight is not causing some concern?
We are blowing in insulation, so we'll have the roof open. We can do some inspections of the existing roof beams.
Ongoing, like annual or semi-annual? Or...
Well, to be honest with you, there's nothing by building code that requires anyone to go into any building and on-go in any way. I hate to say it. I mean, we all saw something happening in Florida a year and a half ago. And, Florida is one of the few states that has that 30-year rule. Certainly when we do this, we're going in for a permit. So at that time, we'll talk to the building department and see what they might require specifically for the roof area here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does the town have any specific fire code as it relates to people on top of a building?
Because it's not enclosed, there's no sprinkler requirements. The guards are required, so someone doesn't go over the side. Roofs are always occupied by someone that works on it or does work on it. So those are the rules that regulate those. And just recently, the state of New Jersey does have a whole section because rooftops are hugely inundated right now across the state. People are using them. We just did a whole roof deck over at the Short Hills Hilton that was added on about 2 years ago. So those kinds of items are being introduced. So the state of New Jersey has a section for rooftops because they have been implemented on numerous municipalities throughout the state, and they thought it was necessary to add that to the code.
So if a fire does break out,
yes,
and people can't access that door, so this 30 to 40 people are going to have to go down a ladder?
Yes, it's the same way you would get out of an apartment. So if you had to evacuate the building, 30 or 40 people within the building would have to evacuate from a fire escape.
Yeah, but chances are 30 to 40 people wouldn't be all in the same location.
They'd be throughout the floor.
Right. But if a fire breaks out in that staircase, they would have to all go down a ladder to get to the ground.
Or we have our ladders reach the third story, or they wait the 7.5 minutes for the Millburn Police Department that are right down the block. and we take them off the roof via a ladder.
Right. Any other questions for Mr. Buckles? Go ahead, Rob.
Just quickly, is there any furniture being proposed, outdoor furniture, patio furniture?
We haven't selected those, Mr. Simon, but yes, there will be furniture, and all of that furniture will be tied down. Right now, there is no umbrellas being, talked about. There is no, sort of anything built on top of the roof, like a pergola of any sort. So we haven't purchased or reviewed any of the furniture, but it will be furniture that will be brought down, and we will not permit beach chairs up on the roof. So I'm sure that we are going to be instituting some regulations on this roof to keep people safe.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John Drew. I'm sorry, John Drew.
Just one follow-up question. When was this building constructed, and when were the last major renovations done to the building?
I'm going to ask the owner to answer that. He also has someone that I believe that this was probably 30s or 40s when this building was built. It's been here a long time. And I believe that they renovated all of the main hallways and lobby areas in the last 5 years.
Thank you.
Amy?
Yeah, is there going to be, any grilling or other equipment like that provided on the roof?
I'll let the owner speak to that point. They're going to see what amenities they want to bring on there. We haven't talked about grilling, and it's something that we'd have to see if the code will allow us to do grilling up there. I would not expect someone to bring their portable barbecue up there, and we would have to, check that. I would also probably say the owner will more than likely have cameras on this roof, just to be sure that we don't have abuses up there. We live in the world of cameras today.
Okay, then we'll wait to talk to the owner about that. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience for Mr. Buckholz? I do not see any hands raised. Mr. Azzolini?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so at this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Cohen, the next witness.
Mr. Cohen, if you just raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in tonight's hearing to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Okay, if you would just state your name for the record, please.
Andrew Cohen, C-O-H-E-N.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen, what is your position with Associates 29 LLC?
I'm the owner, managing member of the entity.
Okay, so you're authorized to speak on behalf of the entity.
Yes,
Okay, and are you a resident of this apartment complex as well?
I do live here.
Okay, and so what can you just explain to the board? I'm sure they're going to have a lot of questions for you, but just give some of the reasons that you've undertaken this task to install a roof deck on the building.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. I'll introduce myself quickly first and then tell you how this came to be. My kids are grown now, but I've lived here for 12 years. After my divorce, I moved in here with them half the time and raised them, but now they're in college. So I know the building well. I want to thank the board. I know how hard you all work to do what's best for the town. I've watched that in the 25 years I've lived here. I just want to say during COVID, the roof became a lifeline for the residents of this building. There are 17 apartments, maybe 30 people live here, call it home. We have about 4 kids. And the light and air of the roof became it's a huge amenity for the residents. It's always, by law, the roof has to remain open. It has to be accessible to residents all the time because it is a egress for fire. And but the problem is, while it's accessible, it's never been finished. It's a rough roof doesn't have proper guardrails around the side. And John Buckholz drew a really nice plan to limit access, make it safer, protect the existing decks from users causing damage, and to make it more pleasant. And I understand there's concern in town with decks like this, everything from, as you've mentioned, disturbing the neighbors to safety. And we can address all of those here. I'm sure of that. I have no doubt. And I would even bet that if Millburn updated the master plan in this day and age, it would call for more roof decks. That would be an explicit goal downtown. This building is 150 feet from one of New Jersey's major transit hubs. John Marco, Cafe Monet, and Oscars all have sidewalk cafes steps away from our front door. Matter of fact, behind us, John mentioned the restaurant, Sakura. They have a large outdoor eating area on the ground right behind us. Our planner, John McDonough, tells us that the closest residence is hundreds of feet away. The closest, single family home with no direct line of sight to this roof. My girlfriend and I were in Naples, Florida recently. And as we're walking around, it occurred to us that downtown Millburn is not a retirement village like Century City or the Villages. It's a vibrant, lively downtown. We want to encourage that. On the other hand, we're not South Orange Seton Hall dorm complex. Our residents pay over $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. They want peace and quiet when they come home from work. We are experts at providing that. It's what we call quiet enjoyment. Our professional managers, Louis and Maria Mary, they've been here for 20 years. They make sure everyone is comfortable here. The last thing any of us want is for one of our residents to focus on a problem with their home. We want them to focus on their jobs, their loved ones, their health, their community, but not problems with their apartment. That's our job, to make sure that doesn't happen. The tenants want this. They're asking me, what's taking so long? And I assure them Millburn, the process works. It takes time, but it works. We submitted this application a while ago, and they're waiting for the answer. And I certainly want to tell them in the end that the improvements were improved. And I can tell you how I can promise that it'll work out fine. My 3 kids were born in a house in the South Mountain section. They went to kindergarten at the South Mountain School. We moved to Short Hills. They went to grammar school at Deerfield School. From both of those homes, both those neighborhoods from our backyards, and especially in South Mountain, within 60 feet, there were 5 backyards in line of sight of our backyards. With Cheryl and Nahum Burstein and Sam and Lisa Lesper on both sides of us there. And it worked. There were no rules. There were nobody policing us. It worked. And, we can talk about what kind of rules there are here, but nobody's better at imposing rules on our residents than us. And we don't have many rules, but we have enough to make sure this place runs well. We have to keep the tenants happy. And this is a living, breathing structure we have here. We have dozens of windows opening up onto Millburn Avenue, onto Holmes Street. Could people open the window and blast music? Sure. Could they have a party with 60 people in the building? Sure. Does every apartment have a stove? And we have no plans right now for a barbecue, but does every apartment have a stove with burners and an oven? Yeah. But we're here and we make sure it works. That's our job. We own 1,500. We own and manage 1,500 apartments between here and Pennsylvania and North Carolina. And our motto is expect ataraxy. Anybody at their computer should Google it. You'll actually get a little if you Google it, ATARAXY. We tell our residents to expect ataraxy. That's all I would say, treat us like any backyard in Millburn or Short Hills. Whatever rules you'd want to impose on us, whatever you're going to ask us about, the same should apply to any backyard in town. It's just our backyard. And yes, there's a park 1,500 feet down the road. And for any house that's submitting an application for a deck or patio, you could say, well, you're only 1,500 feet from Giro Park. Why do you need a deck or a patio? Our tenants don't want to cross 3 lanes of traffic and walk 1,500 feet to get some air all the time. We do it a lot, but we don't do it all the time. Okay, and I'm ready to gladly answer any questions.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. You did indicate that there is an on-site property manager that lives on site.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I have no further questions for Mr. Cohen, so I'll leave it up to the board.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Cohen? Steve?
So, Mr. Cohen, there were several technical questions that were poised, just give us an understanding. Actually, before I do that, Rob Simon, can I ask you a question?
You may.
I kind of explored some safety issues. Craig explored some safety issues. We all kind of did. Is that our purview here, or are we just really, about positive, negative criteria and conformity to the master plan? It's like the tree issue, right? With renovation? You know, we're not really responsible for trees. Are we responsible for safety and exit in case of fire and load bearing? Is that all under our purview?
Short answer is yes. That's certainly under the positive and negative criteria. You can take safety considerations
Okay.
into play, certainly in determining whether the applicant has met their burden of proof. Absolutely
Okay.
correct.
So, Mr. Cohen, I ask
Especially when you're dealing with the use variance.
Okay. So, Mr. Cohen, I ask you, please outline for us the safety protocols you plan to have in place for the use of the deck.
You know, let's see, we have windows that open onto the street now. We don't tell people you must stay back from the windows. We're adding guardrails to make it really difficult to fall. We don't monitor if people have guests coming into their apartments. If we need rules, we'll start them. We are a no smoking building. We have rules here. But for safety, we will, I think as John said, we will make sure, you know, if there has to be every restaurant in New York has a sign up maximum capacity, in New Jersey too. We'll have a maximum capacity, I imagine. We might put hours on it if there's an issue. We might not. Somebody wants to go up and read at midnight or see the view, we're maybe not going to stop them. We have very responsible people here. We don't have problems. If we start putting rules in, I'd have to put them on every apartment, not just the roof. But I hear you on, you know, the weight bearing, and the apartments too have issues if people have a lot of people over, but we have had events here. But I imagine there'll be a maximum capacity sign for the roof. Maybe even would be not unreasonable if we came up with it. I mean, to come up with rules, you know, certain lawyers would love to write rules for our roof, and bureaucrats would love to do it, but they really don't know a lot about roof decks or running apartment buildings. We're the experts. We'll make sure that it runs well.
So who's going to make sure it runs well? Who's we?
Let's trust us, right?
Right.
Well, it's the market. Why would we do something that would drive our tenants crazy or make them leave?
Well, you
or
have 40
disturb our
people.
neighbors?
You have 40 people partying on the roof of the building 15 feet away next door.
We could have 40 people. I could have 40 people in my apartment tonight with the windows wide open, blasting, you know, M&M.
Okay, if that's your justification, then okay.
But why are you worried? I mean, any house in town could do that. Why? I mean, that's, you know, there's huge backyards in this town. They have tents and parties, and they have neighbors. I hear you, but that's why would we do that? You don't have to trust us. You want to impose rules. I don't even know where you would start. And what rules? Why not no racism? If you really want to make rules, let's go, like, where are you going to start and where do you stop? I guess it's all for noise, but we have tenants here. We have 35 people here right now in my building. I'm in the building. I know you're concerned, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, the starting point, Mr. Chairman, is that we've got to comply with any ordinances of the town, obviously, with respect to noise, with respect to, well, no smoking, like he said, any fire code provision. And from a liability perspective, any owner of any building would have to have reasonable rules implied, because if they didn't and somebody were injured.
We haven't heard any reasonable rules, Mr. Ezzolini. We hear everything from racism to windows being open on the street. But if 4 children who live in this building go up on that roof unsupervised, who's watching them?
Right. Well, I mean, that
what do you want to do about their apartment?
I think.
What do we do about their apartment? What do you want us to do? I don't have a rule about their apartment windows being open.
Anybody have any other questions for this witness?
But I think, you know, if it's hard to put forth rules at this time unless the board has something that's really important to them based upon other roof decks. I know there was a roof deck approved in a bill, and you know, recently in Millburn.
Where?
That was hold on. There was the planning board that approved the Silverman Group. That was over at on Woodland Ave.
Are you sure that was approved?
Yeah, there were two roof decks, and the outer roof deck was not, but the inner roof deck was approved. And I have the minutes from the meeting right here, and I don't see the rules being implemented in the minutes of this approval. This is application 20-0.
Well, that didn't come in front of the zoning board, did it?
No, it did not. This was before the planning board.
Right.
Yeah, not the zoning board. But, the concern in that matter was noise, residential properties, how it would affect nearby residences. And in fact, our planner will discuss it. The planning board, basically was espousing roof decks in the downtown area for vibrancy reasons and whatever else. And our planner will discuss that. And, I know that the township committee was going to enact a roof prohibition, but that did not pass. And there's been some discussion because I think the prohibition, they didn't want a full townwide prohibition. I think they were more concerned with residential areas. You don't want businesses near residential areas with roof decks and affecting the residential tenants. But I think we'll get to that with our plan.
Let's get back to this case. Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
Mr. Cohn, 17 units. Can you break down for me how many units per floor?
5 on a floor, and then there's 2 on the ground floor.
So so it's a 3-story building, right? On the first story, how many units? 7?
5.
5. And then how many on the second floor?
5.
And then 5 on the third floor?
Correct.
And then where's the other 2?
There's 2 in the ground floor basement area.
Oh, in the basement. I'm sorry. Okay.
The original super's apartment and another one. They have their outside separate door.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't
Anyone
think we're
else?
not. I just want to be clear. I don't really think, I'm not being flippant. I don't want you to think we're not going to have rules. And I did mention a couple. I said we'll probably have a maximum capacity and maybe a time at night. We just put washing machines in, and there's a list of 7 rules that we sent to the residents by using the washing machines. That's, so we do have lots of rules here, and we do enforce them, and we don't. It's part of life. It's part of our life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else on the board have a question for? Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, quick question on, do you plan to have any additional lighting on that, on the deck?
Didn't hear what kind of lighting?
Any additional lighting, or do you currently have lighting?
I'll just defer to the architect on that, but I think he showed this low voltage string light, which points straight down. Yeah.
Okay.
Chandra?
Just curious, so when a new resident signs in, is there anything that you hand out in the form of house rules? Just continuing on that earlier conversation, because I've lived in buildings in the past where they actually give out house rules, which is a bulky document, has multiple things, just all encompassing. Just curious, is that something which is provided? Is that something which will cover what we are talking about earlier?
Our leases, I've seen 20-page leases. Our lease is 3 pages long. It has about a dozen rules in it at least. There's a number of rules in there. Sure, we're not adverse to rules, but these are our customers. We have to, we're not adversaries with our tenants. We work with them and get along with them and make sure they're happy and satisfied.
So it's part of the agreement, not part of the house rules standard document that you would hand out to every resident, every newcomer.
It's in the lease. No, they're in the lease. We put them right in the lease.
All right. And then just a question I had raised earlier. How old is the building and when was the major renovations done? Would you be agreeing with what was earlier provided, or did you have any further color to add? Because I
don't have it. Yeah, I wish, I get asked that a lot, and I have to somehow, John, we got to work on that. I don't have a date of construction. I should figure that out. John said 30s or 40s. That makes sense.
Right.
I thought maybe latest right after the war, late 40s, early 50s. But I don't know, and it is way overbuilt. And renovations were done, many years ago when we bought it. We upgraded electric and the boiler, and but the building itself was built really solid.
Okay, thanks.
Since you own the building next door, will those people have access to this rooftop deck?
We don't own that building.
You don't? Okay, I'm sorry. I think that was mentioned that you do.
Hope it comes true though. I like that. Maybe that was a prognostication.
Got it.
All right, that was my mistake.
Okay, no problem, John. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience for Mr. Cohen? I do not see any hands raised. Counselor, or would you like to proceed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring on our planner. I do want to make a comment. I know, I mean, obviously this is an issue regarding the rules, and I'm not sure if, you know, we should present, you know, a list of rules and that we could discuss, or and come back and do that if that's where the board is going, because we weren't prepared on, you know, providing the rules, and maybe that was my my error in that regard as well. But it seems like it's an important, or maybe we could just take, you know, see what the temperature of the board is, or listen to the planner first and then come back to that issue. But I just wanted to get.
I mean, we're not here tonight to write your policies.
I understand, but if
So-
there's a specific concern, you know, when I appear a lot before the planning boards, I know there, you know, the fire department weighs in, and they may have some concerns and some suggestions and recommendations or requirements. That may be something we do here as well, is shoot this over to the fire department in Millburn.
That's up to you. I mean, you know, we don't, you know, the fire department has not opined, neither has the police department. And according to Mr. Buckle, it's a short 7-minute ride and it can pull people off the roof of the building. So, you know, I don't know how to answer your question. That's up to you. What would you like to do?
All right, well, you know what? Why don't we, can I have 5 minutes just to talk to my client and come right back and we'll decide, go forward with the planner, or we come back with that testimony and the plan?
Well, we're going to move on to our next case then. And you guys can have a conversation and then we'll circle back.
Can I just get like 2 minutes?
You got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. It's just easier if I was there, I could just talk to him, but I gotta go on.
Mr. Azzolini, what say you? We have several other cases to get
Yep.
to this evening.
I'm here. Hold on. I'm just trying to figure out how to get back on. We're going to go forward with our planner. So let's get the testimony in.
Make no mistake on this rules thing. We're not here to write your rules. We're also not here to enforce them, as we don't have a division to do that.
Absolutely.
So your structure is your structure. If it's laissez-faire, it's laissez-faire. We're not here to we're just merely asking questions.
Okay, I appreciate
So
that.
understand that. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
So your next witness.
Okay, so I'd like to call, where is he? Alex Doherty? Oh, there he is.
Good evening.
Okay. If you just raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name for the record, please.
Alexander Dougherty. Last name is Dougherty.
Mr. Dowdy, could you please give us your qualifications?
Yes, I'm a professional licensed planner, PP and AICP, licensed at good and current standing. I possess a degree at a Rutgers-Blausi, master's in city and regional planning with a concentration in development, redevelopment studies, certification in public policy. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. Your qualifications are accepted by this board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Dougherty, why don't you take us through the conditions, show the exhibit, and we can
Yep.
mark that A1. Please describe the exhibit and take us through with the board the legal justifications and your planning testimony regarding this matter.
Absolutely. So I'll just share my screen here. So everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So it's says
Wait,
13.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, let's mark this.
So first of all, Steve, what is this that we're going to be looking at?
Yeah, we're gonna mark this A1. It's a packet. Alex, why don't you explain each slide in the packet?
Well, but
It's going to be
how
photos and
many
maps.
how many sheets are in the packet and what's in it?
That's what we're gonna do.
So it says 13, but there's only 12. It had an extra print attached to the file. So there's 12, I guess, slides, if you will. They consist of some maps and photographs for the board for some orientation.
Okay, and I see on the bottom there, it says it's prepared by Mr. McDonough.
Yes,
He prepared it, not you, correct?
correct. I'm here on behalf of John. He's got pulled away, put a fire out. Been working with John for quite some time. So if I may, I'll just start with slide 1. It's your basic tax parcel map, if you will, outlined in yellow is the site in question here. As you see, it's on the corner of Millburn's and Holmes with Essex behind it. We're at block 703 in lot 8. As we move down to slide deck 2 here, it's more of an aerial from a bird's eye view. Again, outlined in yellow here. The site is 291 Millburn Avenue. When we go to red, this is what we call a land use map. Basically, color coordinates the different various land uses you'd find in any town or city. Red being more the commercial service and yellow residential. As indicated, this building and the one next door are residential apartments. Everything else in red would vary from restaurants, as you see, office buildings, commercial tenants. We have fitness centers, banks, and so forth. And green down in the corner would be an orientation for where the Taylor Park location's at, as discussed. So this is our zoning map. We are in the B4 zone. And with that being said, it's your central, downtown business district, if you will, the central business district, where residential uses on the first floor are not permitted. For some scale and location on the roof, we've provided, as you can see here on slide 5, the area in which the roof deck patio would be displayed, furthest removed from that residential building in question. Again, kind of back off of in the corner of the building, away from the main corridor, Millburn Avenue, not to take away from its features and the downtown business feel. Again, behind us is that Japanese restaurant, as we talked about earlier, and their outside area.
I think this photo really drives home that there really isn't any outside usable space here. This is an older building. Our records indicate 1940. Again, 17 units, 3-story building with that lower basement, if you will. Slide 5, we kind of spin the drone around here again to kind of show you.
Slide 6.
I'm sorry, slide 6, where we kind of see where the rooftop is, kind of written in yellow there in the back with the arrow. From Millburn Avenue, I think a good takeaway here is how high those decorative parapet walls are in the front, the mechanical equipment up here and so forth. Again, what I like to point out, what's behind here is the train station, some of the office use and banks. Off to the left is the parking deck. So back here where the tenants would be, respectfully, is again off the main avenue, kind of, you know, off in the corner by themselves. Again, it's not too large, about 1,300 square feet. Spin that around, we kind of start to see some of the, you know, the more prominent area where this would be. I think if we did a quick little zoom in here, kind of get a feel of how tall these parapet walls are already. Again, as discussed, some elements of railing and so forth would be added here. Again, the parapet wall in the front, the decorative feature, this is very hidden, very remote. Again, down here at the bottom, we have the parking lot. There's no residential, you know, homes here. And again, off in the corner, furthest removed from the neighboring apartment next door. When we look at slide 8, there's a few things I like to point out. As discussed, the train station off in the background, the large expansive parking lot. We have a parking deck off in the left. You know, low-lying buildings, you know, you can't really see up here. But most importantly, when we talk about, you know, maybe why the initial resolution to, you know, ban citywide roof decks from a residential perspective, out here in the corner, you know, I think it's perfect. With the lack of leaves and foliage, the evergreen buffer here from what would be, I guess, the closest residential uses that would possibly see this, because the topography kind of goes upgrade there. We do have that good screening and buffering here, even in the cooler months when the foliage does disappear. So again, I think the visual impact is minimal, if any. And that's kind of where, you know, I like to show again, the rest of the photos really just kind of help orientate what I've already discussed. We're off in the corner, the uses in the back, the evergreen trees. And again, we're off of Millburn Avenue, which is the main corridor here, kind of spins it around, if you will. As you can see, great views of the, you know, the mountains in the background. These last ones are from the ground. This is along Millburn Avenue. As you can see, you certainly will not see anything from Millburn Avenue, especially in the car, things of that narrative, people hanging off the front of the building. When we spin it around on the side, gives you more of a side profile view. Again, it's very unlikely you would see much up here in this back corner. And, you know, with that being said, you know, that is the what we produce from a visual standpoint. I think it really helps to give the board some visual understanding of where this is and what's around us. I'll stop sharing and I'll kind of jump right into the testimony. To summarize the application, we're one tax lot, block 703, lot 8, again, developed 3-story building, 1940, 17 units, again, no open space on site. The area downtown Millburn surrounding are predominantly commercial, with, like I demonstrated, residential housing, you know, way beyond. The plans to add the roof deck to open areas of existing roof, no changings to the existing roof mechanicals. The roof is about 1,300 square feet. Zoning consideration, we are in that B4 central business district. The zone is aimed a neighborhood scale of business and services. The prominent, you know, the promotion of the healthy and livable community is the core goal of the master plan. So we definitely don't want to take away from that downtown commercial business, but again, we have a residential apartment located in that downtown business. So the zone relief we're seeking is the D2 relief, which is to expand existing non-conforming residential use. Again, that's that 2 units, the ground floor units here. And then I guess one would be the D1 use relief is required because this use is not expressly permitted within the zone of roof deck. So we'll jump right into the D2. The application meets the positive and negative criteria For the Burbage case here, is irrelevant whether the use belongs in the first place. The essence of the test is site betterment. I think that's what we're trying to do here for the tenants. The positive criteria, the addition of the rooftop amenity produces mini site betterments. The project promotes public health with convenient access to fresh air and open space. The space, this is essentially important since there are no open spaces or outdoor amenities on the site. The project also provides the public benefit of socialization, a place to bring people together. The project also promotes core planning goals for efficient use of land and variety of land uses. The project adds validity and vibrancy to the downtown, which is another core goal of the master plan. All the above promote purposes of the zoning, especially purpose A, G, I, and M. When we look at the negative criteria, relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public or impairment to the zone plan. Functionally, the application can impose the applicant can impose reasonable restrictions such as sound levels, hours of activity. Visually, the rooftop has limited visibility from the ground and is remote from the residence, as I demonstrated. When we look at this D1 relief, legal basis for relief, the applicant meets the enhanced burden of proof for the DC test. When we look at the positive criteria, the site is particularly suited for the use by virtue of its condition and its context. When we look at the condition-wise, the roof is already there and is easily adaptable to accommodate the use. Residents already have access to the roof. Contextually, the roof is remote from residential and the roof deck is back off of Millburn. Again, when we look at particularly suited, this location in general, this is one of the only residential buildings here, all residential. So as far as being particularly suited, if there were to be a roof deck, this type of roof deck here for an entire apartment complex would be suited. When we look at the negative criteria, the omission of the use from the zone can be reconciled by its very small scale and the remote location from both homes and of the main avenue. Relief relates to a specific piece of property and not the whole zone. Conclusion, the application adds positive amenity with minimal effect here, and statutory criteria for relief can be granted, and approval is warranted. When we kind of address some of the concerns for safety, load, and things of that narrative, when the applicant were to pull a permit and so forth, the engineering, the structural integrity of the building would be addressed. If there were any concerns going forward, that would be the building from a fire perspective as well. The safety of our residents of the community are certainly the first priority here. So if there was any issues from a fire and construction, that is where those other departments would come into play. So with that, I'll conclude for any questions.
I just have a quick question for you, Mr. Dowdy.
Yes.
In terms of the expansion of use, which we hear a lot with these types of D variances, is there any expansion, in your opinion, of intensity of use with adding the roof deck?
We're not expanding the building footprint left or right per se. Again, the residents have access to the roof already. They can't really lock that door. From an intensity standpoint, I think an argument can be made for that we're intensifying the use itself to come up to the roof. But from, I think the essence of an expanding of a D2, I don't think we really strike that. But by default, we are inviting people to come up to the roof.
Right.
But we're not adding units. We're not adding any, additions off the back and so forth.
Great. All right. I have no further questions for the planner.
Any questions from the board? We'll have one for you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
No, you go first. Go ahead.
So, you took aerial shots and showed a bunch of houses that are several hundred yards away, but you're not addressing the building that's right next door. So if there were 40 people on that roof having a good time in the evening, how do you think it would affect the residents of that building?
Well, I think it's when you look at where we're at in the downtown area from a noise perspective and it's that downtown livable, walkable, I wouldn't call it necessarily, a real urban setting, but the noise pollution, if you will, and the sounds of people, commotion, cars driving by, there's a restaurant in the back as well. I think the aerials showed that. So from, I guess, a public nuisance concern, I don't think this would be any different than what's kind of already existing in this neighborhood. And I certainly think by the scale of the apartment, the 17 units, the 30 some odd tenants here, I don't think this would really take that needle over the edge here, given that we are in that downtown area and the restaurant behind us does have that outside space as well. And again, we're trying to mitigate that as best we can by putting that as far away from that building as possible.
Right. Rob, your question.
Yeah, just a couple questions. If, in terms of the permitted uses in the B4 zone, couldn't any of the surrounding buildings be redeveloped small r to mixed use buildings? Is that possible?
Certainly mixed use is allowed.
Right, and then, so that would have commercial on the first floor and residential on the upper floors, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and if those properties were redeveloped, are you surmising that outdoor rooftop amenities like the one being proposed here would be permitted in all those other buildings as well?
No. This use is not called out as a permitted use in the zone.
So whether it was the current apartment building next door or new redeveloped mixed-use buildings in the surrounding area, as a professional planner, you believe that they would have to go back into this board for D1 use variance relief?
Yeah, it's very possible. I think they would, because the use is not expressly called out as rooftop decks and for residential use.
And I asked the operator, and I'm still not clear. So if this was a mixed use is a permitted use, and this is not a mixed use building, correct?
Yes.
So how many units? Is it 7 units that are non-conforming with regard to this building? So the second and third floors would be permitted as a mixed-use building, but the 5 first floor units and the 2 basement area units, they would not be permitted, correct?
That's my understanding.
Just for clarification, in the B4, it says residential, but not on the ground floor.
Right.
So I understand your question. Mr. Cohen indicated that there are 2 ground floor units. So I think there is some ambiguity there, whether the actual first level is a permitted residential level or not. And I don't have.
Does it be ground floor or basement?
He said.
It's above grade, kind of.
Mr. Cohen, can you get back on? He said ground floor. I'm like.
Well, let me ask Mr. Doherty, as a professional planner, do you believe that the interpretation of that is that the basement area is what should be non-residential and the first floor can be residential?
I got to look at the definition on how you define the ground floor, especially when we talk about grade. I know this photo here is a little hard to see with the, actually, I don't even think I'm sharing it. Am I sharing it here? No, I'm sorry. This photo is a little hard to see. There's some foliage in the front, but the basement floor, if you will, or ground floor is substantially above grade. I would have to revisit a definition on what we constitute a story as far as grade, if that expressly calls out. And, again, if that is the case, then those would be the only 2 units that are non-permitted or, for the zone for the ground floor. I know the applicant has stated that they have their own door from, the public realm. So it's very possible that would be the case. I would have to look at your definitions for ground floor.
Okay. And what from one of your photos on the side that Mr. McDonough took,
Yes.
Are those just fire escapes or do they operate as balconies as well?
I believe those would just be fire escapes.
Right there.
You have to come out the window.
Okay. And how many units are next door?
I don't have that information.
And are there air conditioning units currently on the roof of this building?
I have air conditioning units in the window, and
Right.
I don't believe there's air conditioning units on the roof. It was cellular.
If you know, can you answer that?
It's a 1940 building. I don't see any condensers up here.
There are no air conditioning units on the roof.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Dowdy,
Yes.
I was not on the, I'm very familiar with the building, but I was not on the roof. So take us through how you would come out of that access and
Sure.
down and onto the roof and then to where this proposed roof area is.
Certainly. I think this photo, if you can kind of see, there's already some cones roped off to keep people away from the main avenue here. But from, I think it was this earlier slide deck here had the outline of right here. So the bulkhead, if you will, was right here. So I would imagine, and I think it's best answered by the applicant and the architect,
Yeah, Chairman,
something-
this is an architectural
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just goes
Why don't
right
you
to
pick
there.
it, John, why don't you answer the question?
Sure. Sir, you can see in the area that's in the middle where the yellow comes down, there's a door. That's that kind of skylight right there is the single egress that's there, the fire rated stairwell. So you would come in there and then come out to the fire, to the area of the patio. And just as a clarification, we can limit this to 50 people because by code, okay, if you have less than 50 people, you're only required to have one means of egress. And once you've met that one means of egress, which this door does, it doesn't require a second means of egress. We've just allowed it to tie into an existing fire escape because that fire escape must give someone the ability to come out of their apartment. If they can't go down that fire escape, they can go back up to the roof and they can come back down into the fire enclosed stairwell. So we've allowed both of them to be accessible. So by going in with less than, not more than 50 people, the one means of egress is all that you need by the building code. And therefore, we would be less than 50 people on this roof.
Plus, of course, there's the fire in that one egress.
Then you get to use the fire escapes, or it's just like any other building. If you have a fire, this building was built with one staircase, so it is permitted to do what it's doing. And then all of the other apartments do give you another egress avenue, and we give the other egress avenue by going down the same fire egress as these other ladders. So it's no different than the second means of egress to every apartment, and that is permitted by code.
Mm-hmm.
So the way off of this building will meet building code. And I would like to and I don't mean to get a little bit further, but Craig, I'm trying to figure out, there seems to be some concerns about safety. And I kind of differ with Mr. Simon a little bit. The board doesn't decide on building department issues. That goes to the building department and the fire department. So those issues are, and I understand your concerns and we're trying to address that. So the guardrails are required to be a certain height so children can't go over them. Those heights, when met, is all we have to do, and they are required, and we provide them. We're putting a 5-foot high fence on the other areas of the roof so that you can't get around it or over it to get to other areas that are unsecured. We are going to end up with a hornet strobe up there. We're going to end up with an exit sign. We're going to end up with emergency lighting on that roof when it's all said and done. But we don't show all those attributes because it's not required for us to do that for this submission. But this will go through a set of building permits. So we will meet all of those. And this is also a use that's only probably available for 4 to 5 months out of the year. And I'd like to sort of address, this is like any other apartment building. You can find an apartment building that's got a basketball court in it. Then it's got noise at all sorts of hours. You can go to another complex and there's tables out back where the families can play on a playground and it provides noise, and there's other people around it or other houses around it. So you do have activities that provide noise and that people learn how to handle those noise with each other. So I understand that someone is concerned about some noise up on the roof, but with all due respect, that noise is above all the windows in the other building per se. And as a final stipulation, I just want everyone to know, this roof deck was about to receive a building permit. It has already gone through the full building permit approval process, was about to receive its building permit. And the last part of the process, it goes to Eileen Davitt. Eileen took a look at it and changed her mind, and this was not approved just without a review. So it was stopped at that point before everyone in the building department approved it. So we are here before the board after a full set of working drawings were submitted some 8 months ago. So the building department has already approved this use in the manner that you see it. So it meets building department, fire department requirements by the township of Millburn.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Dougherty?
You have the reports for the fire department and police department? Can you provide that?
I don't have the reports.
That's Eileen.
Yeah.
That would be Eileen.
But generally we get it with the applications, right? I don't see that attached to this application.
The applicant doesn't provide those, the township does.
There were no reports because this was not a site plan approval. There's no reports done on both use variances, just when it's a site plan. I do not get professional reports. And I wasn't aware that this has gone through the whole building permit process, because typically they won't sign off on anything until there's a zoning approval. So I wasn't aware that this has gone through the whole permitting process, which is unusual.
Can we stop sharing the screen, please?
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Dougherty? Anyone in the audience have any questions for Mr. Dougherty?
Well, I kind of do, but based on John's testimony now, I don't know if I can ask Mr. Dougherty questions on Rob, what do you say?
I stand by my opinion. I think John is incorrect. I believe that for purposes of the positive and negative criteria for a D1 variance, for a D2 variance, you certainly can inquire, regardless of whether site plan approval is triggered by a development application that requires a D1 or D2 variance. You can ask questions regarding safety, and I believe they are more than deemed relevant.
Okay, so Mr. Dougherty, let me ask you this. Well, first, I'm just curious, when was the last time you were on that roof?
I've never been on the roof.
Never been on the roof.
No, I would have to go in.
Somebody from your firm has been on the roof?
I'm sorry?
Somebody from your firm has been on the roof?
No, we visited the site, flew the drones around, investigated the neighborhood and so forth.
Huh. Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you, as an ongoing practice, evaluate the some of the safety concerns that we've outlined during this meeting? And if you do, how do you do that? And how do they apply to this application?
I think it's important to understand when you have limitations. I am not a construction official, an engineer or an architect. I rely on the testimony of those before me and the multiple layers of, inspections and so forth and permitting the DCA and those skilled qualifications going forward. From a planning standpoint, I'm here to tell you that this use would be a positive and not so much a detriment. As far as the concerns that you have and other members of the board, that's where I have to myself rely on those professionals and those certifications and licenses to uphold, the integrity of their craft, which would be the architectural engineering and building and so forth, and that whole process. So, to answer your question, when I wrap up an application, one of the things, I say is the building will be built to code and, and fire codes and safety, because again, safety of our communities is a paramount issue for any, profession.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I want to address a good question Mr. Simon asked that sort of slipped through the cracks. The existing cell towers don't prohibit any uses, and when they were put in, the roof had full access at the time to the tenants, and they were aware of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Dougherty? Any questions from the public? I do not see any, so Mr. Azzolino, where would you like to proceed?
That concludes our testimony and our application tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then in that case, any comments from or any questions from the audience for any of these situations you've seen tonight, and also offering now for any comments as well as we've kind of covered the questions. So is there any comments from the audience? I don't see any, so I will close the public portion of the meeting. So board members, say you.
So can I just, Craig, before we go into deliberation, let me just
Sure.
remind the board that this is a use variance that has been presented as both a D1 use variance where the use is not, the accessory use that's being proposed is not permitted. It is alternately being provided by way of proofs as a D2 to expansion of pre-existing non-conforming use. With regard to a D1 variance, in terms of the positive criteria, the issue is whether the proposed use will promote the general welfare and whether the development of the property is particularly suited for the use proposed. As you all know, with regard to the negative criteria, without substantial detriment to the public good, without substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance, the applicant has to meet an additional burden, and Mr. Doherty mentioned it regarding the Medici enhanced burden of proof, with regard to the fact that the applicant must prove and the board must find by enhanced quality of proof that there'll be no substantial impairment. In other words, the applicant has to reconcile the use proposed with the fact that the ordinance does not permit the use and does not reference the use as being permitted in the B4 zone, excuse me. With regard to a D2, it's similar. Obviously, you don't need to meet the enhanced quality of proof that's set forth for the Medici standard. It still needs to show that the proposal is particularly suited for the enterprise proposed. Typically, when we see a D2 variance, we see special reasons being proposed where the variance, if granted, would tend to minimize the nonconformity and make it more acceptable in the particular setting. And that's the Burbridge case that, again, Mr. Doherty, I believe, referenced to. And then, of course, you still need to prove the negative criteria, both prongs for the D2. Thank you.
Mr. Simon, can I just make a comment before we proceed? And I agree with everything you just recited. I just want to just point out to the board that this is a non-permitted use of an accessory use. And I think there's sometimes some extinction that we're not creating a brand new primary use on the property. So in terms of Medici, there has been some case law where it says if there are circumstances of a limited expansion of a non-conforming use that isn't creating a wholly new use, then we may not have to, strictly conform to the Medici standard, especially in this type of case where I think the use is permitted to a certain extent because it's residential. It's just not permitted on the first level. But the roof that's being added here, while it does maybe expand in some types of use, it's not expanding, in my opinion, the intensity of more tenants, more apartments, more parking, things that normally are associated with a non-conforming use. So I offer that, and I think the testimony, was presented by our planner that this really would not be an impairment of the zone plan, where in fact it was mentioned earlier, this has been discussed in town regarding roof decks, and I know it's been a contentious issue, but I think the part of the
Mr. Azzolino, the public portion has been closed, so if you've answered your question, Mr. Simon, I think that's about it.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out to the board.
Members of the board, what are your comments on this case?
So I'll go.
Go, Steve.
So I was actually able to get up on the roof some time ago when it first came before us, and my initial thought was, wow, this is a great idea, right? It's going to be a roof deck, and it's not going to bother anybody, and you're going to have great views, and the tenants are going to love it. What I'm really surprised by, disappointed by, shocked by is the lack of specificity during this hearing. I mean, this is not a backyard, right? This is a roof. This is very, very different. I'm surprised that an organization that has multiple buildings was not able to present to this board sort of a detailed list of how they're going to ensure safety. I mean, I kind of got the sense that it's kind of like, oh, well, if something comes up, then we'll put a rule up or something like that. So I'm really disappointed in the specificity or the lack thereof. Yeah, there should be a report from the police department. There should be a report from the fire department that we can review. So without that kind of detail, what seems like a really good concept, I cannot support. I'm sorry.
Any other comments?
I guess I would, this is Amy, I would echo, yeah, I find it a little difficult also because I also thought it was, you know, sort of a good idea, not sort of, I thought it was a good idea. And from the testimony that we heard, you know, people are going up on the roof already. And so in a way, this is making it actually safer. They're keeping people only to a specific portion of the roof. They're putting up guardrails, you know, and but I agree with Steve on the point that there seems to be not a lot of thoughtfulness behind the application in terms of many of the questions we asked. And one thing also is sort of like there's a difference between a roof deck that, you know, I don't know, is encouraging people to grill and party on the roof versus just a place to sort of sit and relax. There's no specificity to how it would be used as well exactly. And so I find it, you know, I want to support it, but I find it difficult without because it seems to lack a lot of specificity and thought about these things. So I'm on the fence.
Jessica.
I mean, I agree with my colleagues, but I'd also like to add that I'm failing to see how this meets the positive or the negative criteria here. And I'd be curious if any of my fellow board members are you know, see that it meets that. I mean, I'm concerned that this would be detrimental to other buildings and you know, goings on in the neighborhood. I don't see how it meets you know, either of the criteria here. So,
You know, I'll go next because that's sort of where I'm headed. With this intensity of use, and there's no question that this use is intensifying, as frankly, I'm shocked people are allowed to go up there right now with no walls, no protection at all. And just because the door's open because it's a fire access, that people are actually going up there and hanging out on a deck right now truly shows a complete disregard for all safety. But furthermore, as for the negative criteria, I don't think it's been met at all. In fact, if 40 people are up on that roof and the noise coming from that and all the people next door in that other building are going to sit there and listen to that condition, I think that's unfair and certainly is not beneficial by any means. So I don't feel that the negative criteria has been met at all. And its intensity of use, right now, there is no furniture up there. There is really no amenities, and all this will be added. So it's only going to increase the use and the desire of people to hang out on this roof and will create more distraction and noise for those living only 15 feet away. So I would not support this application.
I would concur with
Sorry.
Jessica and Craig, both of you. And I'm also thinking, what happens if there's another rooftop comes on the next building? How would that dynamic play out between the two buildings? So I think I see lack of vision here. Initially an idea, but I don't see how this would benefit the tenants. And given the fact that Taylor Park is right across the street, I don't see the justification or positive criteria.
Thank you. Ashley.
I echo what everyone else said, but in particular, two things that mentioned, I'll just touch on. I don't think noise emanating from 40 people on a roof is equivalent to someone in their top floor apartment, let's say, opening up the windows. So, I mean, I am concerned about how loud that will be for the neighbors in that building next door. And then the comment that this rooftop helps the vibrancy of the downtown, I don't really see how that putting the roof deck with the lights up there is the type of vibrancy that the town really wants to see.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, in that case, would someone like to make a motion, whether it's for or against this application?
I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Kiwi Lawrence,
Yeah.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Avigdor,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes. We'll be moving on to our next case. We're going to make a slight change here. We're going to jump to calendar 386522, which is Sandra and Jason Cadson.
So Craig, I just want to make a comment. I know the Castons, but I
Mhm.
think it should not impact my ability to be impartial in this case.
Thank you, Jody.
Did I join the wrong way?
No, you're good. You
You're good.
need your video.
I have to correct the minutes or the list.
The agenda.
My name's James, not Jason.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
there we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I have James here. Did I write Jason on the?
Yeah,
Oh,
whatever. It
it's
doesn't
okay.
matter.
Sorry, I said that on the agenda.
We have another Jason on, that's why I think we just got them confused.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Do you have any professionals that need to be brought over?
We don't, but the
Contract.
contractor is standing by if we need him.
Okay, that's fine. Then we'll, if need be, then we'll bring them over. So we'll swear you
Put
in.
together pictures for you.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
if you would both just raise your right hands, please.
Sure.
Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in tonight's hearing to be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Your names for the record, please.
James Caston, Kasdon.
It's Sandra Kazan.
Okay, folks. So if you have any exhibits, our attorney will guide you appropriately to how we were going to do those. But why don't you start off with what you're interested in doing this evening and what we're looking at.
So I think we're applying for a type C variance. Our
Both parents, yeah.
our lot is
Irregularly.
irregularly shaped. We've sort of, our backyard is a triangle. And so really wherever we put a patio, it falls within the
It's less than 12 feet setback from whatever property line we have because we're on Oval Road and we're in the inside of the cul-de-sac. So the frontage is a lot wider than the rear of the lot. So it slopes from wide to narrow. And then, on the side of the house, there's 7 feet, 2 inches to the left.
Yeah, between our house even and the
Wait, can I, you guys can only speak one at a time. You can't both speak at the same time.
Sorry. All right, so as we were saying, there's very little lot line space between the side of the building to the lot line on either side. And then as you get into the back, and that's from the end of the building, from the house. And then as you get further into the backyard, it narrows even more. So it's always been a non-conforming lot since construction. I think the house was built in 61. So what we want to do is, we have bluestone pavers now. We want to remove those, put down, well, they're bluestone tiles. We want to put down pavers. We have an 8-foot wide, 5-foot deep, set of steps that come off a slider out of the dining room. And we want to replace those wooden, pressure treated lumber pieces with stone. It will actually be a little shallower as you come out of the house, but there'll be stone, all stone instead of, pressure treated wood. And then we want to make it more conforming and, contemporary, and it will look like our neighbors on either side who have nice paver patios in the rears of their yards. And we want to do that on both sides and make it look nice.
All right, so let's talk to the two variances that you're seeking tonight. So the front yard setback, why don't you tell us a little about that?
The front, I think, is it a front yard setback?
It's
A side
setback.
yard?
Well, you also have a front yard setback because you're in a 40-foot zone and you have 34 feet. So would that be a pre-existing nonconformity?
It must be
Not
because
in, it's because of the way, I only cited them for a side yard setback. Because,
Is a corner a lot, does it,
no, it's, you're not
well,
on the
does it
corner.
behave like that? No, I know it's not on the corner, but.
There's a house next
You
door.
want to see a picture of the survey? I have one, if that's helpful. I don't know.
The property line is on the other side of the driveway, so their property is not all of oval.
It's just one variance for side yard, right?
It's just the
Setback.
patio. They're not on the corner.
Okay, because I'm just looking here at the attachment E and it's showing a front yard setback C variance and also a side yard combined.
Are you looking at oval road?
Oh, wait, sorry.
Wait, you have the wrong one.
I thought I had a bigger
Wait a
house.
minute. I think you have Jason, you have the Jason one.
Yeah, that's what I did. I pulled up the Jason and that was it. So, sorry.
I thought-
I have the
I'll
right- I have the
practice
right- I
on
have
his
the-
first. And then.
Yeah,
Yeah, they just need a side yard setback. It's, I think, 5 feet on the right side, or
sorry,
5 feet on
correct.
the right and 8 on the left, or,
Right.
well, they have an existing.
So did you have any other things you want to show us in terms of your survey or?
A bunch of you came out, so thank you so much. And I wish I knew I would have made it a little bit nicer, but I can show you the pictures. You want me to share my screen?
If you'd like to.
Wait, let me get to the front. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
This is the back of my house. Can you see?
Hang on one second.
Wait, hold on a second. I believe that the first thing you're showing is a survey, which is part of the application package, so we do not have to mark it as a separate exhibit. But to the extent that you're gonna show us photos or other exhibits that the board has not seen yet, we're gonna have to mark them as we go along, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you have to do anything for this to be okay for me to show you this?
Now, you can talk about the survey, go right ahead.
Okay, so where it says block 506 up at toward the top, that's the back of our house, and you could see the side of our house in the middle. You could see that we're within
7 feet.
I think 7 feet 2 inches of the house itself is 7 feet 2 inches to the neighbors, to our joint property line. And right next to us that's their driveway, our next door neighbor's driveway right there. Their driveway, their garage is in the back of their house and it goes around to the back. And on the other side, you could see that our driveway, although it comes out to the side, it then, juts in really tight to the house. There's only, I don't even know what that clearance is. It's not very much to the property line. And so even with the stone that's there, that is, all angular and uneven, and our air conditioner is right there, that is already, and this is how we bought the house, that's already right up against the property line on that side. And we really tried a bunch of different ways. If you see where the round piece that comes out off of the covered porch in the back, there's steps, there's a sliding glass door on that part of the house. and steps that come down into the backyard. That's the, egress and
Yeah, from the dining room that I spoke about.
from the
before.
dining room, and that even the door is within the 12 feet of the variance and not variance of the code. So we're really sort of in a bind. We can't get something small enough.
Yeah, we tried to find a way to make this, do something with, to conform with the 12-foot setback, and we can't do it. We talked to, I don't know, 5 or 6 different designers and engineer, and it couldn't be done. So we have to seek the variance to be able to put in this patio.
So the next is pictures, but I don't, this is the side of, so do you need to do something before I show you this?
Yeah, so we're gonna mark, how many photos are you showing us?
I think I have 7 photos. What does that say?
Okay, so we're gonna have all
Okay.
7 photos marked as A1.
Okay.
And then you're just gonna go through them, and then I'm just gonna ask you that regardless of how the application turns out, if you can forward them to Eileen, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So this is if we're facing toward the back of my house, the driveway is behind us.
No, the driveway's on the side.
That's not, the driveway is behind.
Oh, the driveway, I'm
us.
sorry, honey. You're right.
That's the air conditioner, one of our air handlers right there. There's 2 air handlers right there. You could see the house that's, right, that's their property. Line is right up where these stones go. Maybe there's like a foot of extra space there. And these dangerous steps that you guys all risked your lives to come out and see. But you could see that that's the side that really angles in and I'm just showing you. So I'll show you the next picture now. Is that okay? This is now looking at the other from the opposite direction. That's my driveway. That's the air handler. And these are some of the pavers, I guess, or again, this is a better angle. You can see how close the house is next to me. But this is our property line, right? The trees are actually, the bushes are actually theirs. That's the one side. Now this is the other side. This is the driveway right in the foreground is our next door neighbor's driveway. And that's the side of my house. We had gotten approval to move the air conditioner to the side as long as we kept it covered. And these are steps that we had gotten a permit for years ago when we put we did a renovation. So these steps are kind of rotting a little bit. And this is what we would be replacing. It would be a little bit more narrow than that. Thank you, shallower. And let me see what I have next. This is my neighbor's driveway, and this is my house. You can see how close it is. And this, I don't know why I put that in. That's an old, I think that's that's from an old swing set from years ago. Our kids are much older now. But we have some privacy between us. We put up trees and the lattice blocking the air conditioning, which our next door neighbors approved of. This is the sliding glass doors that come out. Like I mentioned, they're within the 12 feet. I think that's it. That's everything. I hope that was enough. The other pictures look much nicer. My husband thinks these have a little bit of an artsy quality. And you won't be able to see any of the patio. Okay, so the patio, let me go back to the front. I feel like I didn't give you guys enough information. So the patio would essentially, where the dotted line is what we would cover with the new pavers, and of course replace the old wooden steps. And as you can see, you wouldn't be able to see any of it from the front of the house. So it really, and it would make it look like the other people's backyards. I think for those of you that were back here, you saw that my neighbors really do a nice job of keeping their backyards nice, and we would like to return the favor.
Okay, any further testimony?
No, I think Sandra covered it. I mean, as she said, it's not going to be visible from the street. The only people who would see it are the adjoining neighbors, and it would conform or mimic essentially what their patios look like. So it wouldn't be an oddity in the neighborhood. It would make it more current with what's already in the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, in that case, does anyone you can stop sharing your screen. Does anyone on the board have any questions for the Kasdans? Real quick, you said pavers. Is that the material you're going to use, or just block paver?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's not going to be elevated or anything like that. It'll be low.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Then I will go to the attendees. Any questions from anyone in the audience this evening for the Kasdans? I see none. Any comments regarding this case? I do not see any, so I will close the public portion of the hearing. Board members, what are your comments?
I'll start. There's a real hardship here. The shape of the lot, with how the backyard especially on the driveway side, is so angular, and then the lack of space on the other side. As the applicant said, there's literally no way to do a functional conforming patio. So I could support this application.
Thank you.
Chandra?
Same, I could support it as well. And given that it will be more in conformity with what the rest of the area looks like with the neighboring houses, and it's at a low elevation, it's at the ground level, as I understood.
That's correct.
It's not going to be intrusive or anything like that. So I could be supportive as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other further comments? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so I'm supporting the application. I have to say it was my first time down on that street. That's one of the most beautiful streets in Short Hills, Millburn. Everyone keeps their houses beautifully. Just, my compliments. Thank you.
Thank you. Come take a walk.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah, I would agree with the comments that I heard so far. The patio, when I was there, I looked at the house on the left and, could sort of envision a very similar type of setup there. And since it's on the ground, it would be relatively, not very intrusive on the neighbors. So, and there's clearly a hardship, as Jessica mentioned, in the way this lot's shaped and cut in the backyard there. So I would be supportive of this application as well.
That's great.
So in that case, do I have a motion here?
Move approval?
And a second.
Second. Sorry.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Avigdor,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Klettner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. And thanks for all the hard work. I know how difficult it is to do your job.
Yeah, really.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Have a
Good
great night.
night,
Thank you.
guys.
Two. Next up, we will be moving to calendar 386622 CJM Place LLC, Nine Slope Drive.
Okay, Mr. Skolnick, there you are.
Yeah.
Who was that?
I'm here.
Who else am I bringing?
Apologies.
Mark.
Mark Chimigliano and my clients as well. I'll be back.
And this is CJM. I don't know who this is.
We have Jed Levin
There we go.
and Christina Mohebi. I don't know if they're together.
I just have Jed Levin. I don't see the other name.
Okay, if I get started.
Sure, feel free.
Let's go.
Thank you, Chairman. Richard Skolnick, representing CJM Place LLC. As you mentioned, the address is 9 Slope Drive, and it's identified as block 3304, lot 11 on the tax maps. We just have one variance for maximum lot coverage. I cannot promise that our presentation will have an artsy quality like the last application, but we'll do our best to move through the proofs. Existing lot coverage is 31.9%, permitted is 35%, and we're asking to go to 38.3%. We believe it's a modest deviation. It's 830 square feet over. And it's not really the pool itself that drives a deviation, but really the patio around the pool. That patio around the pool is 759 square feet, so just about the same as the deviation. In terms of proofs, we think we can justify the application based upon the C1 criteria, where we have a bit of an undersized lot. And then even more importantly, perhaps on the C2 criteria, we have added oversized dry wells to help with drainage that are larger than are required and make an improvement. And we also have a robust landscaping plan. So we have some benefits to the community and what we believe is a very modest detriment. I have Mark Gimigliano, a civil engineer, to go over the plans. And my clients are available as well. That's Jed Levin and Christina Mohebi. They're on the call if you have any questions about the house.
Great, thank you. You can proceed with who you would like to bring forward first. They need to be sworn in if there's a professional and give us their credentials.
Okay, I'm going to call Mark Gimigliano, an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Hello, everyone.
Wait, if you just raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name for the record, spelling your name, please.
My name is Mark Gimigliano, spelled Gimigliano.
And you'll be testifying in what capacity this evening?
Yes.
What capacity will be?
Oh,
as an engineer?
I'm a professional engineer. Yes.
Okay. Your credentials, sir.
I am a professional engineer licensed in the state of New Jersey. I earned a degree in civil engineering from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I've been working as an engineer since for over 25 years, licensed since 2008, and I've testified in front of numerous planning and zoning boards across northern New Jersey, including this one on, I believe, one occasion.
Is your license current?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. You are accepted as a professional for this board. Go ahead, Mr. Gimigliano.
Thank you. So I guess I just want to walk you through the application, and the easiest thing would be if I could share my screen. I have a few exhibits.
Sure,
so
go
I'm
ahead.
gonna do that now. Thank you. Okay, can everybody see that on the screen?
Hey, Mark, if you can just give us a thumbnail as to what you're going to present and just confirm that this has not been presented to the board yet, and we're going to mark it.
Sure. This is an aerial photo of the subject and surrounding properties. It was not submitted to the board, called aerial exhibit, and it's dated 5/16/2022.
Okay, we're going to mark the aerial exhibit as A1. And as you heard me from the last and other applications, at the conclusion of these proceedings, regardless of the outcome, if you can please provide all marked exhibits to Eileen.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, so this, as I mentioned, is an aerial photo of the subject and surrounding property. To orient everyone, running north and south is Taylor Road North. Slope Drive runs east and west. This road here is Swale Lane, and Twin Oaks Road is just here to our south. The subject property is at 9 Slope Drive in the center of the image. You can see the surrounding properties are all developed with single-family homes of various sizes on various size lots. Many of the homes have circular driveways in the front. Some have pools. And one thing that strikes me in driving around this neighborhood is all the homes in this area are very well landscaped.
and their yards are screened very well from each other. If I could zoom in here on the subject property, what we show, and we've superimposed on the aerial image some information from our drawings, and it shows this property is developed with a single-family dwelling in the center of the property. There's a circular driveway in the front with pavement access to a side garage, and there's a slate patio behind the home. On the east side of the property, it's a well-landscaped buffer between the properties. Same thing on the west side, and the rear of the property has a well-landscaped area as well. The rear yard is open and undeveloped, and it slopes moderately towards the rear of the property. There's a drainage easement that runs across the back of the property and across the lots to the east and west. And in fact, the lots on both sides of the drainage easement drain to that area. Stormwater runoff from the yards of these properties drains to the easement and is piped to the west into the drainage system. What we're proposing is a small pool, a 20 by 40 foot pool with a patio around it in the back. And that's shown on this plan as well. But before I get into the details of what's proposed, I'd like to show another exhibit, which are some photographs of the rear of the property, which I took today. We have 4 photographs
Mark,
dated today.
Mark, we're gonna mark the set of the 4 photos as A2 with today's date, which is May 16th.
Yes, thank you. So the first photograph that you're looking at is a view from the rear yard, approximately where the pool will be located, looking to the east at the side property line. You can see that it's very well landscaped, and the properties are screened very well from each other. You can't really see anything between the 2 properties looking in that direction. The second photograph is looking to the rear property line to the south. And that's also well landscaped, but you can see there is some openings in the landscaping, so you can see somewhat between the 2 properties. Looking to the west, this is very densely landscaped, and you cannot see it all between the 2 properties. This is the side property line looking to the west. And then the final property is a photograph of the home from the rear yard, and the home does screen the rear property from the roadway. So going back to the aerial exhibit, you can see that the landscaping on the east side and the west side that I showed you is very dense. In the back, there's an area where it is well landscaped, although there is some openings. And in addition to the pool, what we're proposing is a row of evergreen plantings to further screen the backyard of this property from the neighbors behind. Then the final exhibit that I'd like to present is a copy of the grading plan that we submitted as part of the application. It's been changed because the plan section of it has been colorized. So we call it the grading plan exhibit, and it's dated today, 5/16/2022.
So that'll be A3.
Yes, thank you.
And I will zoom in here on the plan. And now you can see in a little more detail the property. The home is located in the center. It's the lighter colored structure in the center. There's the loop driveway in the front, the circular driveway in the front with pavement access to a side loaded garage. The slate patio, the existing slate patio, is behind the home. And what we're proposing is a 20-foot by 40-foot pool with a paver patio around it. Patio will be 8 feet wide, closer to the building, and 12 feet wide to the east. There'll be a paver walkway that connects the slate patio to the new patio with a couple of steps that drop down, and then a retaining wall on the low side of the pool and the patio to level that area out. As I mentioned, the lot is moderately sloping, so the walls will level that area out for the pool. The wall is a low wall, just 4 feet high at its highest point at the corner. Right now, all the roof leaders from the home are piped to a dry well on the southeast corner of the property, and that dry well overflows into the drainage easement that's along the back of the property. However, everything here in the backyard, including runoff from the slate patio, runs to that drainage easement. So what we're proposing is to add 4 yard drains in the parking lot to collect all the water that runs off of the lawn area now, and also all the water that will come off of the patio and any of the new impervious surfaces. and we'll pipe that to a dry well system located next to the existing dry well on site. We're proposing 2,000-gallon dry wells, which is double the size of the system that's there today. And as Mr. Skolnick mentioned, it's oversized by 20%, 25% beyond what's required by the ordinance. And not only will it collect stormwater runoff from the patio and the new impervious areas, but also from the existing yard areas and the slate patio that's there today. So the end result is that we're going to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff going to the drainage easement in the back beyond what is there today, below what is there today. The other thing that we're proposing are the evergreen plantings along the rear property line to further screen the backyard from the neighbors to the south. And we show those on the plan as well. And that's something that was not included on our original grading plan, but if this application is approved, we would include that on the grading plan as a condition of approval.
John,
basically-
John, I'm sorry interrupting you. Do you have a detail in terms of the proposed landscaping, in terms of what you're proposing as the size at the time of planting and number of trees?
We don't have the detail, but I can testify that it's 13 green giant arborvitaes, and I would presume the size at planting would be 8 to 10 feet.
Thank you.
Just running through the variances, quickly, just to wrap everything up. The property is located in the R3 zone. The R3 zone allows a maximum lot coverage of 35%. With the construction of the pool and the patio area, we'll be at 38.3%. The pool, patio, and other improvements will add 1,826 square feet for a total lot coverage of 9,541 square feet. And as Mr. Skolnick mentioned, the impervious cover will exceed what's allowed by 830 square feet. The lot is undersized. In the R3 zone, we're required to have a minimum lot area of 29,000 square feet. This lot's only 24,889 square feet. If this lot were the full size, then we would be under the allowable impervious coverage. Even with these improvements, if this lot was at the full size, it would be only at 33%. But because of the undersized lot condition, we do require the variance. The lot coverage variance is for additional impervious coverage on the site. And the reason that we're concerned about impervious coverage and we regulate the amount of impervious coverage on a property is because stormwater runs off of impervious surfaces. The more impervious areas you have on a property, the more stormwater runoff. And it's the stormwater runoff that can impact adjoining properties or drainage systems. In this case, we're mitigating any increases or any impacts from the stormwater runoff by collecting all the water from the backyard, infiltrating it into the ground in a oversized infiltration system. So this will actually be a benefit to the neighbors and to anyone along the drainage easement by reducing the amount of water below what goes there today. The other potential impact of this pool and patio are the visibility of the pool and patio from the neighbors. As we showed, the neighbors are well screened, and the addition of the evergreen plantings along the back will improve the screening between the two yards and will also be a benefit to the neighbors by better screening the two properties. So in my opinion, the negative impacts of the pool and the patio and the increased impervious coverage are minimal, and the benefits we're providing with this design outweigh the negative impacts. And that's pretty much sums up the application. Rick, if I missed anything, please let me know.
No, Mark, no impacts on the master plan here, I take it?
No.
No. Okay, it's just the solitary variance, not a use variance, and just this one lot coverage.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mark. We appreciate it, Chairman. That concludes our testimony.
Okay, you can stop sharing the screen. Anyone have any questions for Mark here in regards to his estimate? Oh, Rob.
Amy.
Yeah, I have one observation first, if I may, and then a question. So I'm looking at the zoning calculation form. I'm looking at it sideways on my screen, but on page 2, so there's a lot of existing non-conforming conditions, I guess, but on page 2, I just want to mention this, the maximum accessory use coverage, that seems to be a new non-conforming condition, which I think means it should be an additional variance on this sheet, right?
I think the zoning officer eliminated that in our.
Yeah,
packet.
the maximum rear yard accessory coverage is allowed to be 20%, and this is proposed to be 17.9%. So I believe we comply with that requirement.
They do comply. I think initially there was some confusion and there were some miscalculations, and when I went over with them, the
Oh,
only.
so it's not 21.7, but
No.
it's, okay.
They're,
That's what it,
the only variance they needed was for the lot coverage, the overall. lot.
this sheet says 21.7, that's why I asked. The other thing is just an observation, then my question, the maximum paved impervious surface in the front yard is an existing non-conforming condition, but it's 30% is what is allowed, and the front yard is 38.6. So anyway, my question is just this. Did you all in this process look at the entire site to consider how this could be conforming? Sometimes when we see these applications, people say, well, you know what, I'll reduce the size of my patio, or I'll change something so that I can make this actually work. I'm just wondering, did you all go through an exercise like that?
We did. When this project started out, we'd never intended to go in front of the zoning board. The plan was just to construct a pool in the patio in the backyard. But when we did the analysis, realized that we were over on lot coverage. So the first thing we did was look at areas where we could eliminate some of the coverage. There is a circular driveway in the front, and there was portions of the driveways could be eliminated. However, it is a tight lot. It's an undersized lot, and access in and out is important for the applicants. Many of the other properties on the street have circular driveways, so maintaining the circular driveway really helps the lot continue to fit in with the other lots on the street. So we elected to request a variance as opposed to eliminating some of the driveway.
That's it for me.
Did you have something, Rob?
Yeah, Mark, with regard to the drainage easement, the 20-foot drainage easement in the rear, was that picked up just from the tax map? Or is there an actual easement on record? The reason why I'm asking that is whether there are any terms and conditions of that drainage easement that impact in any way the proposed green giant arborvitae in the rear.
That's a good question, and I don't know where the easement was picked up, but one thing we did talk about when we decided to add the green giant arborvitaes was that we do have to confirm whether they can be planted within the easement, which would be preferred. If not, then they would be planted just outside of the easement. But regardless, the intent is to still plant the evergreen.
So if it turns out that the drainage easement prevents the plantings from being installed, is there an area outside the drainage easement where they can still be planted?
Yes, they'll be just outside of the easement, just between the easement and the retaining wall.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just continuing on the lines that Amy's question was, in terms of looking at options to kind of go, reduce the overage. You're about 830 square feet over, as you indicated. With the pool size and with the adjacent area to the pool border, which being 8 feet wide and 12 feet wide, was there any thought given to in terms of how we could be within the limits? I mean, just kind of thinking through this.
Right. The patio, if it would, the board would prefer, could be reduced. But the size patio that we show is what the applicant would prefer to give them room to use the area outside of the pool. But certainly eliminating some of the patio would reduce the number. It would not get it down to the required lot coverage, though.
Anything else from the board? Questions? If not, I will open up to the audience for questions. Carrie Nussbaum has a question.
Okay, sorry, technical difficulties.
Hey, Carrie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm the neighbor. I'm at 15 Slope Drive. Just wanted to say that I support the project. I think, we have amazing screening from them. I think they're not asking for a really big patio. I think it's a reasonable ask. Any help to drainage would be a welcome addition, as we are a little bit downhill from all of our neighbors. So when it rains, our backyard does get the overflow water. So any help, any improvement in drainage is a good thing for us. And as far as the front of their house, also they have tons of greenery, and everyone has a circular driveway. So I feel like it fits in. It's not a really big circular driveway. So just wanted to say, as a neighbor, we support it.
Okay, thank you. I was just time for questions, but if anyone has a question, we'll go to the comment also. So Wendy Minutia.
Hey, Craig.
I'm gonna swear in.
I don't know if you want to do it now or later, but Ms. Nussbaum's comments, since they were comments, they should be sworn.
Yeah.
So however you want to do it.
So Carrie, could you turn your camera back on?
Yes.
You need to be sworn as it was for questions only, but like I said, I don't think there's a lot of questions, so we can jump to that, but we just need to swear you in.
Hey, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from testimony about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, just state your name for the record so we have it and your address.
Sure. Carrie Nussbaum. I'm at 15 Slope Drive.
Okay.
Ms. Nussbaum, do you agree with everything that you just stated earlier as being sworn testimony?
I do.
That's it.
Thanks.
That was a cough. I have a bit of a cough, so laughing at Mr. Simons.
I know you are, Mr. Simon. Thank you for
that comment there.
Yeah.
Okay, Wendy Minutia.
Hi, I also have a just a comment.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, we'll do this right.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name.
Wendy Minutia, Minocha. And I'm at 50 Twin Oak Road. I am on the south property line. So I also am just here to lend our support for this project. We very much appreciate the evergreen line that they are going to plant. We are the ones where there is some visibility between the properties. But we are okay with what they're looking to do.
Thank you very much. Any other comments regarding this case from the audience? Questions are good too. I see none, so I will close the public portion of the hearing. Board members, what are your comments on this?
I mean, I think the applicants said it best. It's an undersized lot. If it was a conforming lot, then they would be able to build this pool and patio, no problem. So for me, that's really the deciding factor. I don't think that, I know that there are definitely times where we ask an applicant to scale back, but this really, to me personally, doesn't seem like they're asking for too much. They've got two sides of the pool that is going to be completely grass, and small patio on two sides. So for all of those reasons, I think that I could support the application.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? No other comments? So I too could support this application. You know, if they had the extra 4,000 square feet, because I think that's about what they're under in size, they would gain, call it 1,400 square feet or so, which would solve this problem. So, you know, at the end of the day, a pool could clearly lawfully exist on this property without needing variance relief. But to build a pool with no patio around it, I'm not sure that's the greatest, you know, bit of design. So I could live with this. So in that case, does anyone have a motion?
Move approval?
No, second.
I'll second.
Amy Lawrence,
Yeah.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Abigdor,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Plaitner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
everyone.
We appreciate your time.
Sure. Next up, we have calendar 386822. Murtaza Shikari, the property location is 33 Keene Road. Applicant is Tenafly.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Capizzi on behalf of the applicant.
How are you tonight?
Doing well, sir. How about yourself?
Very good. Is everyone brought over that you need brought over?
Yes, they are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so your show.
So this application is substantially similar to the one the board just heard, with the exception that our lot is slightly smaller than the former lot. We're about 20,000 square feet, where the other lot was approximately 24,000 square feet. Certainly recognize that we're not a non-conforming lot, but the fact that our lot size is smaller than the prior application is why our percentage of overage is higher. We're at 41%, where 35% is allowed. We're proposing, again, a pool and patio arrangement in the rear yard. Part of the situation that exists in this property, again, similar to what the other applicant has discussed and what exists within our neighborhood, that there is a circular driveway along the front yard. And because the grade falls off from front property line to the rear property line, there's an elevated deck, which also accounts for some of the impervious coverage at the property. Some of the improvements that we're going to be making by way of the application, certainly additional drainage is being proposed by way of seepage pits and lawn inlets. There's additional landscaping proposed along our approximate southerly property line that Mr. Agarian will speak to, and some other benefits to be derived from the application. I did want the board to be aware that this evening our neighbor Marilyn Cohen had called me because she was having trouble logging in, which just was unfamiliar with what it meant to be a panelist versus a participant. So when I discussed that process with her, she had expressed some of her concerns on the application, and I promised her that I would let the board know that she was in the audience this evening and desired to speak on the application. And I let her know that when time was appropriate, the chairman would invite members of the public to ask questions on the applications. I just wanted her to hear me convey that message to you, sir.
Yeah, indeed. We will open it up for both questions and comments from the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So essentially, that's a summary of our application. Jeff Agarian, our engineer, is the sole witness who will take us through what's existing at the property and what we're proposing by way of the pool and patio.
Sure. Miss Shikari, could you please turn on your camera? Oh, sorry, Mr. Shikari. Thank you so much. Mr. Agarian, you need to be sworn in.
Do you swear from testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name, spelling your name, for the record, please.
Sure. Jeff Egarian, Egarian.
Business address is 271 Route 46, Fairfield, New Jersey. I am a licensed professional engineer. My license is in good standing. I'm a graduate of New Jersey Institute of Technology. I have testified before this board in the past on similar land use matters. And yeah, and
you just say your license in good standing?
It is in good standing, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Garing. Your credentials are approved by this board, so please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gary, can you please bring up your plan set?
Yes. Okay. And can everybody see that okay?
Yeah, if you can just scroll down to the title block and then just identify it for us, make sure we're all looking at the same plan set.
Sure. It's the pool location and grading plan dated August 18, 2021 with no revisions.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you want this marked as an exhibit?
That is in our package, I believe.
Yeah,
That's
we
correct.
do, Matt, we do not need to have it marked separately.
Fair enough. So, Mr. Agarian, using this site plan set, can you take us through what's existing at the property and what we're proposing by way of the pool and patio?
Sure. So it's the lot is a fully conforming lot. It consists of a single family dwelling, circular driveway in the front yard, a rear deck. The house has a side facing garage. The circular driveway in the front is consistent with the neighborhood. There are several homes on the street. Majority of the homes on the street have a circular driveway in the front yard. The topography of the lot slopes from south to north, downhill away from the street. This the topography allows the home to have a walkout basement, and the wood deck acts as an extension of the first floor. Is about approximately 8 feet above existing grade, and with half a concrete patio underneath, and the rest is just regular grade and soil.
That existing driveway, can you just tell the board how many square feet that takes up from the overall impervious coverage?
Yeah, the driveway, it's approximately 4,051 square feet.
Thank you, Mr. Agarian. As far as what we're proposing?
Sure, we're proposing an 18 by 36 swimming pool and spa, pool patio, small fire pit patio directly in front of the pool, stormwater management system, some retaining walls as a result of the grading, the removal of 4 trees, the installation of a aluminum see-through fence, and yes, and then some small tree removal. We're proposing to remove 4 trees.
Can you take us through the particulars? So you had mentioned the pool arrangement. That's appears to be a kidney-shaped pool.
Yeah, so it's a 18 by 36 freeform pool. The pool, it's a modest sized pool and modest sized pool patio. It's on the average end of typical swimming pools that we do a lot of grading plans for. On the larger side of a pool would be a 20 by 40. So again, like the 18 by 36 is the modest size of the swimming pool. The pool patio itself it's approximately 929 square feet. The rear and the sides of the patio are 3 feet wide, which are basic minimums for just circulation around the pool itself. And there's one larger area adjacent to the shallow end that can accommodate some chairs, a table, and for entertainment.
So as far as the at-grade patio areas in the rear yard, it's just limited to those that surround the pool.
Correct, that's it. So the pool and the pool and patio itself will require some minor regrading. There'll be a cut operation in the front with a small retaining wall, and then a fill operation in the rear, which we require another small retaining wall. The wall will be 3.5 feet at its highest location, again conforming to the borough standards.
Can you give the board the benefit of the setbacks to the retaining walls and the pool patio to both the north and the east, please?
Sure. On the north side, the rear yard, the pool patio is 16.9 feet from the rear yard. On the east side, the pool patio is 16 feet from the side yard, and it's the pool patio from the western property line is I believe it's over 50 feet. I don't have that number right in front of me, but in excess of 50 feet.
All those setbacks are conforming?
Correct. They're all conforming where 12 feet is required.
As far as existing vegetation in the field, can you tell us about whether that would screen the proposed pool and patio and retaining walls from the adjacent properties?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can tell, the rear yard is heavily wooded with trees. Does provide a natural vegetative screen. We do have an aerial photograph which I can share later if the board wishes. But the canopy of the trees, you can clearly tell that there is some vegetation back there, which would be able to provide a screen.
As far as the drainage system, can you tell us the particulars of that, about the amount of detention that's required, what you're proposing?
Yes. So as a result of the increase in impervious area, as we know, the coverage variances drive an increase in stormwater runoff. So as a result of this project, we are proposing a 1,290 gallon seepage tank. The water will be routed via a series of catch basins between the pool patio and the retaining wall, and it will be routed over to the seepage tank. We're required to have, let me just check my calculations here. Where's my notes? So 418 cubic feet are required as a result of the calculations, and we are proposing a tank with 437 cubic feet. So we have a 19 cubic foot surplus in volume for the tank.
And that's including the areas required to pick up both the pool and patio, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that is for the pool and the patio. And again, as we know, the pool itself will hold some water in a rainstorm, approximately 6 inches of freeboard between the water surface elevation and top of the coping. That calculation equates to approximately 28 cubic feet or 211 gallons of water.
As far as concerns of overland sheet flow to the neighbor to our west, can you tell us how the design has been developed so as to make sure that that does not occur?
Yeah, certainly. With the regrading of the rear yard and the installation of the pool and leveling off that area, it will create a better drainage condition. Certainly before, where the water would flow off the property and impact the neighbors to the west. Now with the regrading project in the pool, the water that used to run off our property will now be captured by the catch basins and routed and detained on our property. So obviously it will be a benefit to the adjacent properties as a result of this project in the stormwater management system, and certainly won't be a detriment.
Despite the fact that we're improving the drainage system conditions on site, is there an ability to have that seepage pit moved further into the interior of the lot?
Yes, and that was obviously one of the concerns when we were discussing with the neighbor. So on the plan now, where the topsoil stockpile is and the proposed fire pit patio area, we can move the tank into that location. And in that location, that seepage tank would be approximately 49 feet away from the western property line. So sufficient distance away from the property line.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Capizzi, can you please just have the witness specify specifically where you're proposing to move the tank to?
Yes, so if you're looking at the plan, the best way to describe it, I'll zoom in, is right where this 523 is, right in this area between the topsoil stockpile and the fire pit area, right in here.
Thank you. Thank you.
As far as fencing, you had mentioned an open aluminum fence. Can you give us the particulars on, would that be a black aluminum fence similar to what exists in the neighborhood today?
Yes, a typical standard pool compliant fence. You see through type aluminum fence, 4 foot minimum, pool compliant, obviously, and yeah, that's the proposed fence that we're going to install with this project.
As far as landscaping along the west, can you discuss the particulars of that, please?
Yes, and we also discussed improving the western property line with some landscape screening, proposing to plant the green giant arborvitaes 8 feet planted height, spaced approximately 10 or 8 feet on center, in order to screen the project from the western property. We anticipate about 8 to 10 trees along that property line to sufficiently screen the pool.
How many?
8 to 10.
Thank you.
Can you, again, Jeff, can you just indicate with your cursor where that
Sure.
location is on the plan,
From
please?
yes, from the driveway area here down to this area here where the mature trees on the lot, make up the difference.
And I'm sorry, the planting height was going to be what?
8 feet.
So 8 foot at planting and 8 foot on center, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Would you mind bringing up that aerial for us, just so we can get a feel for the vegetation that exists on property in the neighborhood, please?
Sure.
Are plantings planned for the north side as well?
We don't have any plans for the north side.
We could certainly incorporate that, but given the woodland that exists in the field today, we felt there was adequate screening, but certainly we have no issue supplementing the plan to show that.
So right now you're showing you're proposing, even though it's not on the plan, you're proposing the green giant arborvitae plantings on the west side
Yes, sir.
and not on the north side.
Jeff, if we had to do some infill along the north there, certainly we could accommodate that.
Absolutely.
Can you give the board a rough idea of how many plants would go along the northerly property line?
Along the northerly property line, I would, in this general area here, I would probably say we can get 8 to 10 in this area as well.
We'll stipulate that to Mr. Simon.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jeff,
Bring up,
you were talking about the aerial?
yeah, the aerial photograph. So obviously this is our subject property
All
here.
right, whoa, hold on. This has not been submitted to the board, correct?
No.
So we're gonna other than this Google Earth aerial, do you have any other exhibits that you're gonna show us?
No.
Okay, so let's mark this Google Earth aerial as A1. And can you give us a date on this, please?
Yeah, so the imagery date on the lower part of the screen is 4/19/2016.
Thank you.
And I chose this aerial because really what I was trying to demonstrate the amount of circular driveways in the neighborhood and some of the houses, residences with the circular driveways and swimming pools. You can see through the alignment of the roadway, a lot of the homes, and it is a characteristic of the neighborhood that they're all, many of the homes do have the circular driveways, and a lot of them do also contain swimming pools. I'll bring the image to its current state, just so you can get an idea of it with the vegetation. So this would be our lot here, and you can see the solid tree row in the back, which that canopy would obviously screen the project from the adjacent properties.
Can you bring us a little further in, Jeff?
Sure.
And Mr. Capizzi, you know that regardless of the outcome of the application, you're going to have the witness provide A1 to Ms. Davitt at the end of the proceeding.
Yes, Mr. Simon.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, Jeff, you were explaining the vegetation along the rear yard?
Yeah, so obviously with, I'll just quickly scroll back over to the site plan. You can see all the mature trees that are grayed out in this area. Those are illustrated in the aerial photograph and the aerial here as just this large canopy of trees, which would provide some sufficient screening from the adjacent properties for the pool project, similar to the property next door.
Thank you, Mr. Argarian. If we can go back to the site plan, please.
Sure.
Did you have an opportunity to speak to the client about opportunities to reduce existing areas, the driveway and so forth, about a means of trying to reduce coverage and the outcome of those conversations?
Yes, we did. We spend a significant amount of time early on. As you can tell, this project, the date of this project was August of last year. So we did spend some time brainstorming. We did several versions. We're trying to eliminate some coverages from the asphalt driveway area in the front. The areas which we could have reduced just did not seem feasible and aesthetically pleasing or even functional for that matter. So we decided to leave the driveway alone. Ideally for the pool project itself, one of the items or two items we can scale back the pool patio project would be removing the rear yard or the rearmost portion of the sidewalk and patio, that 3-foot section. This section here, if you follow my cursor around the rear, that section, and removing that along with the fire pit area. Those two areas in total equate to about it's 237 square feet, which equates to essentially 1 full percentage point. And that in that case, we can get the lot coverage down to 39.9%.
So Jeff, just sticking back to existing improvements that you explored, when you said it would be non-functional, are you saying that the circular portion of the driveway would essentially become too narrow to function?
Yes, too narrow.
Thank you. Any other elements of your site plan that we have not touched upon?
I think we've covered it all.
Thank you, Mr. Agarian. I don't have any further questions for him, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you can stop sharing your screen, please. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Agarian? Go ahead, Rob.
Mr. Agarian, just to confirm, in terms of the calculations you provided for the stormwater management, that your proposed 1,290 gallon seepage tank is intending to cover the new coverage, but it doesn't address any of the existing coverage on the lot, correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to your last comment pertaining to the fire pit and the walkway area portion of the patio to the north of the actual swimming pool, are you proposing at this time to remove those elements as part of the application?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, any other questions for this witness? Then I will go to the audience. Any questions from the audience? There's questions only. I see none. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Okay. Well, no, I don't see any comments now. Now we have. I think let's bring over Erwin Cohen here.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you would please turn on your camera if possible.
Sure.
Thank you so much. You have a comment this evening?
Yeah, we do.
Great. Then we will need to swear you in real quick.
Sure.
You could swear me in too.
Okay,
well,
both there.
Mr. and Mrs.
Wait. First of all, can you both somehow get on the screen?
Yeah.
So I can see you both?
Okay.
Okay, if you both raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, I need both your names and your address, but one at a time. You can only speak one at a time.
Erwin Cohn, 29 Keene Road, Short Hills.
Marlene Cohn, 29 Keene Road, Short Hills.
Okay, thank you, but only one at a time, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Our property is just to the left of what you're looking at, and our home is similar. It's a one-story home, but our land and their land slopes significantly from the street, Keene Road, down to the back. So while ours is a one-story home, We also have a walkout basement in the back, and we have a deck that runs across the whole back of the house. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any of this until this morning. We weren't aware that there was a pool planned. We didn't see any of the graphics that are now on the screen. So, you know, we're reacting fairly rapidly. We're not objecting to the building the pool, but we do want to bring certain things to light here. Because of the slopes of their property and our property, they and we have lost significant large trees in the back of these lots, and the plumage that you saw from the Zillow shot really doesn't tell the story. The lots have been thinned out tremendously. We must have lost, I'm going to say, over the last few years, 10 very large trees that we've had to taken down and that have fallen. Also, these two lots, basically as far as the backyards go, have been one continuous backyard. There's been no break in the 40 plus years that we've lived there with the various people who've owned the house to the right of us. There's never been a break in the two backyards. And so we are, because of one, our deck being on the second level, as is theirs, we are concerned about, you know, what will be here. I'm, you know, glad to see the fencing is there. I guess it's required. But we're also very concerned that there now be significant planting separations between the 2 yards. I heard what was said, but again, we haven't had a chance to talk to our neighbors. I mean, we're very friendly with them, but as I say, this is all new to us. So we are glad that you're moving that drainage, that seepage pond over to the right, because what happens is the water runs down their driveway and into the back of our lot. So the drainage, you know, we have to understand how the drainage is going to be handled. And that's a significant issue for us. So those are basically the issues that we're concerned about.
Okay, I have something to say now, may I?
Sure.
Okay. The house on the other side of 33, they put in a pool years ago, and in 33, the people that live there, the Liberants, were upset because the water was, first it was drained to Winthrop Road in the back. And because we are on the highest point, we were told, of Short Hills. So we go downhill. And the Winthrop Road house did not like it, and that was changed. But how was it changed? It goes through it runs down from west, and it runs into our backyard, and it caused a lot of trees to probably fall down. What happened was we now have a river. Whenever it rains, we get it in our lot, and it comes down probably from 33 too, maybe in their lot. So we get it. And I don't know how that water is where the pool is now situated at 33. Where is that water going to go from that pool, the next house, going, going on the right side of them? So how is that being rectified? And what does that septic tank have to do with that water? Also, I noticed the pool filter and heating equipment is in it looks like it's in woods. We don't have very much woods left. There are a lot of trees that are out. We could see the houses now on Winthrop. And on Winthrop, if they have pools too, I mean, it's going to look like, I don't know what, but the other side of us, if they have a pool as well, we're only half acre. So I don't mind the pools, except now you're asking for more variance to do whatever you're doing. We don't have the proper blockage with shrubberies and evergreens, and we're in Short Hills. We lived there for 44 years. It's been beautiful. So, you know, how is this going to deter from our whole look in the back of our house? Because we're in a deck that is high. It is not a low deck because we're in the highest part of Short Hills, we were told. So we will see everything. We see what's on their deck. We see what's in their backyard. We see Winthrop Road, because the trees are now, it's not dense like that photograph showed it. So I don't know where they got that picture from. It must be old because those trees aren't there anymore. So the only thing that I'm concerned about is that we have a proper blockage with evergreen shrubs, not 6 or 8 or whatever, really adequate, because where it's going into the woods, those shrubs, there's really not very much woods there now. So I just want to say it's a half acre. It's not an acre like we lived in Scotch Plains. There was plenty of room to build this and not worry about that. And the people across the street from us back up to the reservation. So that's no problem. But this might be really not very attractive and not very good for us to look at. When we sit on our deck, that's what we're going to see.
Just let me summarize for the two of us. As again, we just saw this morning,
Yeah.
so we're just reacting. We are not against them building a pool. I just think we have to have some conversation with our neighbors and with our professionals as to how our issues are going to be satisfied, that this doesn't continue to deteriorate the back of our house, and both aesthetically and in terms of the drainage. So that's where we are.
It looks like the pool is in the right place on the right-hand side, but I don't know about the drainage from the pool next door. What are they going to do about that now? Where's it going?
All right, thank you.
We
for your
go
comments.
downhill.
Drainage is under the purview of the engineering department of the township, and anything that is done to this property will have to pass approval by the engineering department.
Right, and I trust that you will do a very good job. I'm listening to you all night. I'm very proud to hear the way you're handling it, really. I've lived here for 44 years.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask Mr. Agarian a few questions just to respond to some of the concerns.
Absolutely.
Mr. Agarian, as far as tightening up the spacing of those evergreens, you had said 8 foot on center. Can we sneak that down to 5 foot or 6 foot on center so we can have more plantings and establish a more dense buffer along the westerly and northerly property lines?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So what's your recommendation? 5 feet, 6 feet? What's going to be appropriate and still allow growth?
I would venture to say 6 feet would be the minimum. I mean, I work with a network of landscape architects, and I can confirm that. And certainly if we get a favorable vote, we can supply that on an updated plan. I'm not a tree expert, but I think 6 feet on center is like a standard spacing for these arborvitaes, and certainly we can do that.
And so approximately how many additional plantings would you think we would have along each property line if we bring it down from 8 to 6 foot?
I would have to say probably 12 to 15 on the western side, and easily in the rear as well.
Okay, very good. So Mr. Simon, we're going to stipulate to change the proposed planting to 6 foot on center, still 8 foot at planting, and however many we can fit within the point from the driveway to where we hit the existing woodland, we'll plant that. So
we're going from 8 to 10 trees to 12 to 15 trees as proposed.
Correct.
Thank you.
As far as drainage, Mr. Agarian, is there some opportunity for us to install another seepage pit and see if we can pick up some water, at least from the roof leaders or from the driveway? Just something we can do to help pick up some of the existing improvements on site to help address some of this existing runoff from the existing improvements?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, similar to the previous application, we have the room, we have the ability to add another seepage tank and essentially almost double the amount of volume that we can create in that area. So, certainly we can explore the options of picking up some roof leaders or even some additional regrading and channeling some overland flow to those tanks as well.
So just for purposes of the record, we will stipulate to adding another seepage pit and then work with the civil engineering department to determine whether it's best suited to either over detain the proposed pool and patio area or work in some combination of pickup from the existing improvements. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I say something else?
Sure.
Okay. How are you, the town will look at the situation with the water that's going downhill into our backyard now that we're going to have two pools. Will we have more?
They're strictly going to look at this property in and of itself, because they're the ones that are applying for the building permit.
And what about the pool filter and heating equipment? Will that be also covered with evergreens or something? Because there are no trees to hide that. We're going to be on our deck and see the metal cabinets, or will they have that covered?
Counselor, your thoughts on that?
We will certainly stipulate the screening, that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The other thing is on this plan, it looks like there's a lot of land from the pool to our property line. There isn't. There really isn't. So it has to be done very carefully so that we won't ruin the look of the whole situation. You know, the block and the backyard, so it doesn't look all crowded in and next to our house. It just has to be done very well, and I'm sure you'll take care of it. But we just wanted to tell you how we felt.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening.
Thank you.
Any other comments from people in the audience? In that case, anything further, Counselor, on your end?
We don't have any further witnesses, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. In that case, I will close the public portion of the hearing. Board members, what say you? Actually, no, I'll start this one. There's something troubling about this application to me, and probably the elephant in the room here is the fact that we have an oversized lot for the zone. And unlike the previous application, we have an R4 here. We're over by 3,000 square feet with 23,000 square foot lot with 20,000 is required for the zone. So that is bothersome to me. I think that this application could be trimmed. We've had some offers here to nip and tuck it, but I am somewhat on the fence and open to convincing from my board members otherwise, but I am definitely not, this is not a slam dunk for me. So anyone have any other further comments?
Yeah, Craig, I was going to say exactly what you're saying. I think that there were a lot of issues that were raised during this, especially from the applicant's neighbors. But I think that, I don't think we as a board should lose sight of what the variance is actually, what they're going for here, which is a lot coverage variance. So, the pool and the patio are conforming otherwise. And it's nice of them to offer to plant more trees to make it more visually appealing to the, to the neighbors. But there's no setback issues here. The main issue, in my opinion, is that, this is not the same as the application that we saw before, the one previous to this. It's an oversized lot, and, they're asking for, 6% variance to, on the lot coverage overruns. And I'm not in favor of that.
So I would just comment on the lot coverage that, it occurred to me when I was visiting your property that it's a very, very large driveway. you know, it's wider. It's a kind of like an extra wide driveway that goes really deeper. So I forget if it's a 2-car or 3-car garage, but the driveway extends further. And so that was just something that occurred to me as I walked down the driveway. Like, wow, this is a really, really big driveway. And I think that you know, that's part of the issue why lot coverage tends to get as, you know, as high as it is. For me, the main issue was, you know, plantings and shieldings. I wrote in big, you know, capital letters, you know, we need lots and lots of planting. And I was very happy to hear the applicant's attorney, you know, be more than accommodating, you know, on those issues.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments?
I do. May I say something?
Unfortunately, the public portion of the meeting is closed.
Oh, okay. Didn't mention something.
Any other board members have any comments?
And I pretty much echo what everyone else said, and I don't see what the hardship is here for the application, so, which is a big problem.
I would also echo that as well.
So do I have a motion then in this case?
I mean, Mr. Chairman, if I could just have the opportunity, you know, perhaps we could find a middle ground in the sense that if I can ask the board to carry it, perhaps I can develop the landscaping plan, the drainage plan, sharpen the pencil on the proposal, meet with the Cohens, show them what we proposed by way of the modifications to landscaping, drainage, and the modified pool patio layout, so they have an opportunity to assess it, and then come back around at a later date with a modified application that perhaps may address some of the comments.
I think you might be on the right track. So Eileen, when is the next time this case could be heard?
We could potentially, only that we just carried T-Mobile to June 6th, and that would be the 4th. I don't really know that I want to crowd them on there. We have the Kai Center on June 20th, which is the only thing on that day. Do you think this is something that could be wrapped up?
I mean, I'm always confident that we could wrap it up, but you know, how quickly do you think you can get this done?
Mr. Garing, do you think you can turn around a revised plan in a week or so we can send it to the Cohens and have them take a look at it with whoever they may decide to look at it with?
Yeah, absolutely. I can get it done.
Okay.
I think you may want to look at the driveway as well for the reasons that Mr. Toger mentioned.
Certainly will. Thank you.
So we're good with that date?
That would be appreciated, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that's what, June, is it June?
June 20th.
June 20th. Okay, so for the purpose of notice, for obviously the interested parties, the Cohens are actually still on this. So this will be moved to June 20th with no further notice. Any updates will, I'm assuming, be posted to the website in terms of documentation. Let that be notice for this case. Anything else, Rob?
That's it, other than Mr. Garion, if you could provide Eileen with a copy of the exhibit that you submitted.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. And
Thank
we
you,
look
Mr.
forward to
Chairman.
seeing you on the 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Lastly this evening, calendar 386922, 9 Reeves Circle, Jason Losco.
Monday? It's okay.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi, if you just raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address for the record.
Hold on one second. Did I?
Yeah, we lost Jyoti.
That's what I thought.
Anyway, continue, Mr. Laska.
I got
First
her.
name is Jason.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's get her back.
Oh, sorry that she came back
I
over.
got
now.
her. She's coming.
Yeah, no
she's-
worries.
she's here.
In the meantime, Mr. Laska, do you have any other professionals or anyone else that needs to be brought over?
No, not tonight.
Okay, thank you.
There she is. Okay.
Okay, there you are, Jyoti. Okay, continue on.
First name is Jason. My last name is spelled Losko.
So tell us this evening what you're looking to do.
We're looking to do a small addition on our home. The drawings are submitted. I could share my screen to go over those if that's permissible.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Mr. Lasko, are you an architect or engineer?
I'm a designer. I'm not a licensed architect.
Okay, when you say you're a designer, what does that mean?
I own a design and fabrication firm. I've been working in architectural design for over 20 years. I do architectural drawings for 25 years. I have a BFA from University of North Carolina in three-dimensional design and MFA from Pratt Institute, also in three-dimensional design. I've been working in the architectural design field for over 20 years.
Okay. So while Mr. Lasko is not a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, he obviously, from his credentials, has a level of expertise with regard to certainly home design, with his background in that area and experience as well. So while he may not technically be qualified as an expert witness in the field of architecture, you certainly could take into consideration his credentials, experience, and education in the field.
Thank you.
Sure, so feel free to share your screen.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this is sheet 1 in the paperwork I submitted. These are the top drawing is an existing front elevation of our home, and the lower image is a proposed front elevation, where the top left of the bottom image is in the revision cloud. Basically, when they built our home originally in 1910, it was half the size of the current size. They added on and for some reason did not extend the second floor above the first floor footprint. So what we're proposing to do is to extend the second floor to match the first floor footprint. And the existing home is not in compliance with current zoning. So that's why we need 2 variances, one for the front yard setback and one for the side yard setback. If I go to page 2, this is a side elevation where we're just, again, existing up here. Proposed, we're just trying to bring this forward to match the footprint of the first floor. And then the rear elevation, same thing. You can see there's just a setback up here and we want to extend it out to this point. And the purpose of doing it, the reason for doing it, is that I own my own firm. I work in the city, but I do a lot of work from home. My wife does a lot of work from home. We have no proper office space currently. And this is an existing plan view of the second floor. The hatched in area here is where we would be extending. And we would like to create a small personal office space here. And since we're pushing out, we would extend the master bathroom just a bit and this closet just a bit, and then convert this closet to a laundry closet. And this is our property survey.
And the area of effect is just this end of the house right here at the second floor only. And that's pretty much what we would like to do.
Okay. Front yard setback, are you exacerbating that at all or no?
No.
Okay. You can stop sharing at this point.
Oh, okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Lusko? Go ahead, Steve.
So, Mr. Lesko, I noticed you have 2 windows planned. I'm not sure what direction, but they're on the side of the house facing the neighbor.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts there on, I mean, from my recollection is that the coverage between the 2 homes is quite good, quite thick. I noticed your neighbor also has 2 windows.
Yes.
I'm not certain if the neighbor, if they keep them closed all the time or shaded all the time, but what are your thoughts on those windows, sunlight, privacy, why are they there? Let's put it that way.
So we have an existing window currently on the second floor in the bathroom that is, I'm about 6'2", and that window starts at my chin level. So the original, whoever put that window there originally put it up high for privacy. We do have a very dense line of hemlock trees between us and the neighbor that are taller than both homes. We're proposing a window that matches the existing one in elevation, so it would also provide privacy. We can't see into their house through that window. They can't see into our house unless they're looking up at the ceiling primarily. So in that regard, I don't see it as an issue.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? I will open it to questions from the participants. Anyone have a question for Mr. Lusko? I only see the Cohens in the audience, so I'm assuming they're not asking you a question. Any comments from anyone in the audience? No one is there. In that case, I will close the public portion of the meeting. So board members, what's your thoughts? Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I'll go. So I would support this application. I think it's, it's a very modest request. It's fitting with the other houses in the neighborhood. There's nothing, I think it's well thought out. I could support it. I have no issue with it.
Likewise, I would support that. Given the needs in this modern day and world where most people are working from home, I think it's a fair ask.
Thank you, Chanju. Anyone else?
I agree.
In that case, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Amy. In a second. Chanju with the second.
Yeah.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Abigdor,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Plaitner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Very much. I appreciate your time.
And with that, is there any other issues or comments from the audience that is not addressed on the agenda this evening? I see no one in the audience except for the comments. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening, folks.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Eileen.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Thank
Very
you.
well. Good night, Eileen.
Night.